Chapter 751. AI Way? Joao walked into the military magic machine research room of the Sac Kingdom's army headquarters and found that the atmosphere in the room was much heavier than normal. Turning his gaze, he saw that everyone else in the room had a grave expression on their faces. AI Way? Joao couldn't help but smile bitterly as he slowly shook his head. As the manager of the staff officer department in charge of researching how to deal with the military magic machines used by the Lampuri Kingdom's army last August, of course he had received the news earlier than his subordinates, so naturally he knew why their expressions were so serious. The news that caused such a large reaction came from the endless seas to the west of the Sac Kingdom. The Cruise Kingdom that was 300 kilometers southwest of the Sac Kingdom's west coast had fallen a week ago. Then 3 days ago, the Cruise Kingdom was declared extinct. There was only one reason for the destruction of this maritime kingdom, and that was the New Flyer. A month ago, when the New Flyer sent out a fleet with the intention of launching an attack on the Kingdom of Cruise, Ivy League's fleet, including those of the New Flyer, was among those who were present. Including Joao, everyone in the Sac Kingdom's army headquarters was prepared to watch a good play. Even though the Cruise Kingdom was just an amalgamation of pirates and couldn't be considered a real country, its strength couldn't be compared to the real countries on the continent. However, as a maritime kingdom, the Cruise Kingdom's strength in the endless seas was still quite outstanding. Countless pirates made use of their vast number of pirate ships, coupled with their rich experience in the endless seas, to forcibly control the waters around the Cruise Kingdom. Even if it was the Sac Kingdom, because their navy wasn't that strong, they couldn't compete with the Cruise Sac Kingdom at sea. Moreover, the Sac Kingdom's army believed that unless the Cruise Kingdom sought death and took the initiative to offend the Mala Empire and the Kanla Empire, making those two empires attack them, with the strength of the Cruise Kingdom on the seas, even on the continent, there wasn't a single country that could do anything to them. Therefore, now that New Flyer had suddenly launched an attack on the Cruise Kingdom, what awaited them was a tragic defeat. But the facts were outside everyone's expectations. From the beginning, the New Flyer's guard fleet didn't meet any resistance. They crushed all the resistance of the Cruise Kingdom, and in less than 20 days, in less than a month, they had captured all the islands under the Cruise Kingdom. They had even captured the capital and captured the current king of the Cruise Kingdom. This kind of battle situation shocked everyone. The Sac Kingdom's army had clashed with the Cruise Kingdom several times before, so they knew how strong they were on the seas. But even with this strength, they couldn't stop the New Flyer Kingdom's army. They couldn't even slow them down. Kingdoms, 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 kingdom. In the beginning, there were many people didn't flyer. But as more and more news came and they received more and more confirmation, everyone had no choice but to accept this fact. But this fact meant that there was another fact that everyone had to face. The New Flyer's guard fleet was just too strong. Since the first day the New Flyer Kingdom attacked the Cruise Kingdom, the Sac Kingdom's army headquarters had been collecting information through various channels. Among the military magic machines research team, Ivy Joao paid close attention to this because their main job was to study how to deal with the military magic machines developed by the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce. However, the information they received was very vague because the battles were all very short, so there wasn't much information. Of course, looking at it from another angle, there was no doubt that the New Flyer's guard fleet was very strong. It made it so that the Cruise Kingdom's pirates couldn't resist them for long, they didn't even have a chance to display their true strength. However, the more it was like this, the more it was given to Ivy Joao, the more pressure it brought to Joao and his subordinate. With the New Flyer's guard fleet being this strong, how could they think of a countermeasure? Sir Joao, this is the battle report from last night. Please take a look. One of his subordinates walked over with a document in his hand. Ivy Joao? Joao took the document and squeezed it in his hand before helplessly shaking his head. This document was as thin as before, which was enough to prove that there wasn't much information worth paying attention to. As expected, when he opened the report, he found that there was only a brief description of how the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guard fleet captured the Krusk Kingdom's capital, the Krusk Island. It did mention that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guards had used large amounts of magic repeating crossbows and magic rockets, but it didn't mention IVE at all. What Joao cared about the most was the new Flyers guard fleet's battle. After roughly flipping through the report, Joao tossed it aside. After pondering for a moment, he raised his head and glanced at everyone in the room. He said in a deep voice, "All right, now that the battle between the new Flyers guard fleet and the Cruise Kingdom is over, we need to make a summary report of the battle and submit it to the General Staff. What do you think we should say about the new Flyers guard fleet's battle strength?" Everyone in the room looked at each other, and no one spoke for a long time. Seeing the heavy expression on everyone's face, Joao sighed. Joao sighed and did not force them. He just asked his two deputies to prepare the report and turned to leave the room. After walking out of the military magic machine research room, Joao walked out of the door. After turning 2 corners, Joao arrived at the General Staff Headquarters' first staff room. He pushed the door open without any hesitation. Several staff officers in the first staff room were discussing something around a table. When they heard someone push the door open, they all frowned and looked over. "Joao, what's the matter?" Staff Officer Remington, who Joao was familiar with, asked. Joao?" Joao's gaze fell on the table around which everyone was gathered. He saw a map on the table. Large areas of the map were marked in blue. It was clearly a map with the theme of the sea. Seeing this map, Joao immediately understood. Of course Joao understood that the staff officers of the First Department were also studying the war between the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and the Krush Kingdom. "I'm here to make a suggestion." Facing the gazes of all the staff officers, Ivy League's Deputy Secretary Zhao Hai nodded. Joao's expression was abnormally serious. "I suggest that the General Staff Headquarters raise the new flyer to the highest level. No matter what method we use, we must find out as much information about the new flyer as possible. Otherwise, the kingdom's fate will be the same as the Cruise Kingdom's." Joao? Joao's words were a bit serious. If it was under normal circumstances, he would definitely be reprimanded. However, the staff officers in the first staff room all had serious expressions. Not only did no one reprimand him, many staff officers even couldn't help but lightly nod, expressing their agreement with Joao. Joao's words were in agreement. After a long silence in the room, Remington lightly coughed and said, "I agree with Manager Joao's suggestion. It's clear that the military magic machines developed by the new flyer are far more powerful than we expected. If we can't find a way to deal with it, then once the Lampari Kingdom receives support from the new flyer, we won't be able to resist the attack of the Lampari Kingdom." "It's not just the Lampari Kingdom," Joao added. "Don't forget, we launched an attack against the new flyer. We already have a grudge with the new flyer. If the new flyer goes into battle themselves, do you think we can resist the attack of the new flyer guards?" Everyone was silent again, their faces heavy. "No. It can't be that bad, right? No matter how powerful the new flyer guards are, they only have 10,000 people. Our kingdom's military has more than 100,000 people." One of the staff officers couldn't stand the strange silence in the room and couldn't help but retort. Everyone looked at the young staff officer as if they were looking at an idiot. Joao? Joao shook his head and said with a serious expression, "This isn't a matter of numbers. The military magic machines developed by the new flyer have long surpassed the style of warfare we're familiar with. They've raised warfare to another level." "I agree." Remington was the first to nod in agreement. "The Cruise Kingdom has more than 60,000 pirates and more than 4,000 pirate groups under their name. Meanwhile, the new flyer only sent out a guard fleet with less than 30 ships. The total number of new flyer guards on the ships doesn't exceed 2,000, yet they completely crushed the crew's kingdom. According to the reports, from beginning to end, the Krusk Kingdom's pirates have suffered over 20,000 casualties and over 2,000 pirate ships have been sunk. As for the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce's losses in this battle, are almost zero, another staff officer added in a voice filled with disbelief and shock. The room fell into silence again. Even though everyone had analyzed this battle report countless times, it was still hard to accept it when they saw it again. It even made them feel suffocated. After a long time, the first staff officer nodded and said, "I agree with Manager Joao's opinion. I will formally propose this to the Chief of Staff later to increase the importance of the new flyer and deepen the investigation of information related to the new flyer." After a pause, the first staff officer suddenly showed a trace of a smile. Actually, because of Manager Joao's suggestion when he was still the Chief of Staff of the Hungry Wolf Legion, the Staff Officer Department has already made some preparations for the new flyer. Now the seeds that we planted have already developed, and have already begun to play an important role. Author's note: what a good activity of a pie falling from the sky, cool mobile phone waiting for you to get. Click on the Chinese website's official account, WeChat friend, add official account, type Kdred, and participate immediately. Everyone has a prize. Follow Kdred's official account on WeChat. Chapter 752. G. There was a loud breaking sound as a fire-red magic sedan came to a stop beside Ivy Joao, who had just come out of the staff headquarters. "Hey, Ivy, what a coincidence! Where are you planning to go? Do you want me to give you a ride?" Hearing this familiar voice, Ivy Joao turned to look at Chalon Linear, who had poked his head out of the driver's seat with a strange expression, and he couldn't help shaking his head. "I say, Chalon, you seem quite relaxed now. I've heard that you drive this car all day and have nothing to do?" The former Hungry Wolf Regiment's Commander Chalon Linear gave a shrug. "What else? What can I do?" Ivy Joao was silent for a bit before giving a sigh. The Sac Kingdom was forced to create a free trade zone at the request of the Lampari Kingdom. To many people in the Sar Kingdom, this was a humiliation that they couldn't accept. The Sac Kingdom that had suppressed the Lampari Kingdom for several hundred years was now forced to agree to the request of the Lampari Kingdom. There had to be someone to take responsibility for this humiliation. The first to bear the brunt was the Hungry Wolf Regiment that had been defeated many times by the Lampari Kingdom's northern army. To many people, it was because the Hungry Wolf Regiment wasn't strong enough that the Sac Kingdom was forced into a passive position. In the end, they were forced to sign the Free Trade Zone Agreement. So as the Commander and Chief of Staff of the Hungry Wolf Regiment, Chalon Linear and Ivy Joao were the first to bear the brunt of this, and were severely punished. Among them, Ivy Joao fared better. Even though he was stripped of his position as the commander of the Hungry Wolf Legion, he was protected by the military's General Staff Headquarters. He was also given the position of the head of the Military Magic Machine Research Room. Although this position didn't have much power, it was still a high-level position, so he wasn't mistreated. However, Chalon Linear was much more miserable. As the commander of the Hungry Wolf Regiment, he was forced to take responsibility for all the defeats of the Hungry Wolf Regiment. Not only was he stripped of his position as the commander, he was also directly punished. If it wasn't for the protection of the military's upper echelons and the king's special appreciation of him, Chalon Linear's best ending would be to spend the rest of his life in prison. But even so, Chalon Linear had become an idle person without any official position. Even his previous title of Count had been stripped, and he had become an ordinary civilian. However, he was from the Linear family, and with the power of his family, he did not have to worry about being framed. He did not have to worry about food or clothing, and his days could be considered carefree. For example, the fire-red Xinfei brand magic sedan that he was driving now. If he was still the commander of the Hungry Wolf Regiment, it definitely wouldn't be easy for him to get his hands on it. But after he gave up his position, he just had a thought and bought it, becoming one of the few people in the Sack Kingdom who owned a magic sedan. Okay, don't make that face in front of me. I'm not at the point where I need you to pity me. Chalon Linear pouted and pointed at the passenger seat. Are you coming up or not? If you're not coming up, I'll be leaving. Ivy Joao thought about it before getting in the car. Send me to the military equipment research facility outside the city. Chalon Linear looked at him in surprise. You're also going to the military equipment research facility? Ivy Joao was even more surprised than him. What do you mean by also? Could it be that you're also going? Those fellows said that I'm familiar with the military magic machines, so they want me to be a part-time consultant for them. Chalon Linear replied. Part-time consultant? Those bastards from the army headquarters don't have any objections? Ivy Joao asked with knit brows. Chalon Linear coldly snorted. They were the ones who took the initiative to beg me. Otherwise, do you think I would be so bored as to run over to be their consultant? It's like this. Ivy Joao nodded before falling silent. Chalon Linear skillfully started the magic sedan and disappeared with the two of them at the corner of the street outside the staff headquarters. Hey, Ivy, those fellows are finally willing to admit the strength of the new Flyer's military magic machines? After turning another corner, Chalon Linear suddenly spoke up. Ivy Joao looked at him before slowly nodding. That's right, otherwise why would they be willing to put down their face to ask you to be their consultant? Chalon Linear gave a soft snort. Those idiots can be afraid. I thought that they would hide in their shells and refuse to face reality. Ivy Joao gave a long sigh before shaking his head. There's no other way. Even if they want to hide, the new Flyer easily destroyed the Cruise Kingdom and used the Iron Fact to shatter their shell, so they have no choice but to face it. Ivy Joao shook his head. Actually, there's no need for the new Flyer to destroy the Cruise Kingdom. There are countless facts that prove this, but they aren't willing to admit it. Look around, the new Flyer is already everywhere. Even if they aren't willing to admit it today, could it be that they'll be able to hide tomorrow? Ivy Joao looked in the direction Chalon Linear was pointing and first saw a black magic sedan flying by. Then there was a medium-sized passenger magic car that followed, and then there were two large transport magic cars that came one after the other. Looking around, in the Sack Kingdom's capital, Nordham City, there were very few horse carriages, rather they were all replaced by magic cars. He then shifted his gaze to the shops and houses on both sides of the street. He could see all kinds of household magic machines flickering with the faint glow of magic arrays, transforming the entire city into a different appearance. Since the free trade zone was opened, the large amounts of magic machines produced by the new Flyer and the other magic machine companies of the Lampari Kingdom had entered the Sack Kingdom and were warmly welcomed in the Sack Kingdom. In just a single year, magic machines had become popular in the Sack Kingdom, changing the daily lives of most people in the kingdom. There was a saying in the Sack Kingdom, if you haven't used magic machines yet, you're already out of this era. From the perspective of the kingdom, Ivy Joao wasn't happy to see this situation because the large amounts of magic machines that were popular in the Sack Kingdom meant that the new Flyer and the other magic machine companies of the Lampari Kingdom were stealing large amounts of wealth from the Sack Kingdom's citizens. This was bad for the Sack Kingdom, but it strengthened the new Flyer and the Lampari Kingdom. But from another perspective, from the perspective of a normal citizen of the Sack Kingdom, he had to admit that the household magic machines developed by the new Flyer had greatly improved their daily lives. Even for Ivy Joao, his family had bought all the household magic machines they could buy. There was no other way, these household magic machines were just too easy to use. For example, Ivy Joao's wife and the servants were already used to using the magic stove, the magic rice cooker, and the magic bread maker to cook. Now that they had to return to their normal lives, not to mention them not being used to it, even Ivy Joao couldn't accept the low efficiency of cooking. Moreover, even if they didn't consider the daily lives of normal people, even if they looked at it from the perspective of the kingdom, they couldn't completely resist the new flyer. For example, the large amounts of agricultural magic machines and construction magic machines that the new flyer sold to the Sack Kingdom through the free trade zone. With the introduction of large amounts of these two things, it greatly improved the Sack Kingdom's farmland. Just last year's introduction had increased the Sack Kingdom's annual grain yield by 40%. According to the kingdom's agricultural department's report and budget, if they continued introducing agricultural magic machines and construction magic machines, transforming the kingdom's farmland, the kingdom's annual grain yield would increase again. And this was achieved without the introduction of chemical fertilizers. According to the estimations of the Ministry of Agriculture, if sufficient amounts of fertilizer were purchased, then the kingdom's annual grain production would most likely double from the current basis. Currently, the kingdom's agricultural department was negotiating with the new flyer, trying to get the new flyer to agree to sell fertilizer to the Sack Kingdom. But because the new flyer had given very harsh conditions, the negotiations had reached a stalemate. However, Ivy Joao had learned through certain channels that the agricultural department was already prepared to accept the new flyer's conditions. The reason was very simple: the new flyer could wait, but the agricultural department couldn't. This year's spring planting had already been wasted because of the stalemate in the negotiations, so the agricultural department wouldn't allow the autumn planting to be wasted. As long as they controlled the negotiations well and the agricultural department could bring in large amounts of fertilizer before the autumn planting, the grain yield from the autumn planting would be shocking. In the end, for all the countries on the continent, filling the stomachs of their citizens would always be their first priority. Seeing that the Lampuri kingdom that had been troubled by food and had large-scale famines had already gotten rid of this problem a few years ago, even being able to export large amounts of food, it would be a lie if the Sack Kingdom said that they weren't jealous. In front of the most basic and important goal of solving the grain problem, the new flyer's conditions didn't count for anything. But as a staff member of the army headquarters, Ivy Joao was very clear on this. Once they agreed to the new flyer's conditions, it would make the new flyer stronger. They would have more capital to develop stronger and more powerful military magic machines. Like this, it would be harder for the army headquarters to deal with them. But even if we don't increase the difficulty, can we deal with it? Ivy Joao looked at the magic cars passing by on the road, and there was a bitter smile that couldn't be suppressed on his lip. Buying the new flyer's things would only increase the strength of the enemy. But not buying the new flyer's things would make the Sack Kingdom fall further behind the Lampari Kingdom, making it impossible for them to catch up. Faced with this kind of dilemma, even Ivy Joao, who was considered the brain of the Hungry Wolf Regiment, didn't know what to choose at all. At this time, he could only count himself lucky that he was just a normal staff member of the army headquarters. If he was the honorable king, he would probably have a splitting headache every day because of this dilemma. What a good activity where a pie falls from the sky. Cool mobile phones are waiting for you. Follow me, click on the official account, add a friend on WeChat, add a public account, type KDRED, and participate immediately. Everyone will get a prize. Immediately follow the official account KDRED. Chapter 753. Whether the Honorable King had a headache or not, the Sack Kingdom's agricultural department's foreign trade chief Kalabi Moore didn't know. He only knew that if he couldn't finish this task in half a month, he wouldn't need to worry about this problem in the future because it was very likely that he would have his head cut off by the furious king. Although the Sack Kingdom wasn't like the Lampari Kingdom before where they had a shortage of food and there were frequent famines, it was still very hard for them. They had to spend large amounts of money to import food from other countries each year. In the past several hundred years, the Sack Kingdom had been importing food from their neighbor to the northwest, the Fok Kingdom. But in the past few years, the Lampari Kingdom's food had greatly increased, and they would export large amounts of food each year. After the Sac Kingdom's agricultural department carefully compared this, they found that the price of the Lampari Kingdom's food was 20% cheaper than the Fock Kingdom's and the quality was very good. So even if the two countries were enemies, the Sac Kingdom's agricultural department could only take the risk of being scolded to import food from the Lampari Kingdom. Just last year, the Sac Kingdom had imported 360,000 tons of rice and 770,000 tons of wheat from the Lampari Kingdom. Adding in the other kinds of food, they had imported over 1 million tons. This had cost the Sac Kingdom a large amount of 7 million gold coins. Although it was much lower compared to the 10 million gold coins that the Sac Kingdom had to spend to import food from the Fock Kingdom each year, in the eyes of the Sac Kingdom's parliament and king, importing large amounts of food from an enemy country wasn't something worth supporting. Not to mention that the Lampari Kingdom's food yield was even worse than the Sac Kingdom's before, but it had suddenly increased in the past few years. They could even export this much food, so it was clear that there was a special reason for this. After investigating, the Sac Kingdom's side finally confirmed that the reason why the Lampari Kingdom's food yield had increased in the past few years was because of the agricultural magic machines developed by the new flyer that increased the efficiency of the Lampari Kingdom's farmland, greatly increasing the efficiency of the Lampari Kingdom's agriculture. Other than this, the fertilizer produced by the new flyer was also a large weapon in increasing the food yield. So the Sac Kingdom's Ministry of Agriculture researched this and finally decided to use the same method to increase grain yield. But there was a problem with this plan. It was that because the Sac Kingdom had attacked the new flyer before, the relationship between them wasn't good. The Sac Kingdom had always been worried that importing large amounts of agricultural magic machines from the new flyer would be hindered. However, facts greatly exceeded the Sac Kingdom's expectations. First, the Lampari Kingdom proposed to build a free trade area with the Sac Kingdom, opening the first normal trade between the two countries in several hundred years. Then, when both sides signed the Free Trade Zone Agreement, the Sac Kingdom tried to propose to the Lampari Kingdom that they wanted to buy large amounts of Xinfei brand agricultural magic machines from the Lampari Kingdom. They unexpectedly received the agreement of the Lampari Kingdom, and they smoothly contacted the new flyer through the Lampari Kingdom, obtaining the permission to import large amounts of agricultural magic machines. At the same time, the Sac Kingdom specially brought in some old farmers from Banta City who were familiar with the new farming method of the agricultural magic machines, helping the Sac Kingdom promote it in their country. Through last year's fall planting season and last year's 2 seasons of experimentation, the Sac Kingdom that used large amounts of Xinfei brand agricultural magic machines and imitated Banta City's farming method had very good results. The grain yield of each season had increased quite a bit. This year's spring had just passed, and according to the statistics of the Sac Kingdom's Ministry of Agriculture, the grain yield of the entire country had doubled from last year's spring. Although this yield wasn't enough for the Sac Kingdom to be self-sufficient, it had greatly reduced the pressure on the grain in the Sac Kingdom. Adding in the large amounts of cheap and good grain imported from the Lampari Kingdom and the Principality of Constantine, the Sac Kingdom had easily solved their grain problem this year. This was the first time in the several hundred years of the Sac Kingdom that they had solved this important problem this easily. So no matter what the Sac Kingdom thought of the Lampari Kingdom and the new flyer, they all agreed that they had to continue improving their farming method. They had to reach the level of the Lampari Kingdom and solve the problem of being self-sufficient in grain. With this background, the Sac Kingdom's Ministry of Agriculture's Foreign Trade Department took on the most important task of contacting the Lampari Kingdom and the new flyer, trying to obtain more support from the Lampari Kingdom, especially from the new flyer. It should be said that the new flyer had shown an attitude that the Sac Kingdom was very satisfied with from the beginning. Even if the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's requests were very harsh, for example, the Sac Kingdom had to take out large amounts of mineral resources in exchange, as well as giving up a large portion of the Sac Kingdom's mineral resources to them. Overall, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had shown a very good attitude towards cooperation. The new flyer didn't refuse the various agricultural magic machines that the Sac Kingdom needed at all. They would give the Sac Kingdom whatever they needed, and they would supply it in a very timely manner. At the same time, they would provide enough technical support, allowing the Sac Kingdom to quickly reform their farming methods and increase their grain yield. Although the Sac Kingdom's internal affairs, especially the army headquarters, had many objections to this, saying that this would greatly increase the strength of the new flyer, which was equal to indirectly supporting the enemy, this view was very weak when it came to solving the grain problem. But this time when the Sac Kingdom proposed to the new flyer that they needed to buy large amounts of new flyer's products, they met an unexpected obstacle. The new flyer didn't directly reject the Sac Kingdom's request for fertilizer, but they told Calabi Mori that because the fertilizer factory was set up by the elves and the new flyer, the fertilizer production was controlled by the elves. So if the Sac Kingdom wanted to buy fertilizer, they had to discuss it with the elves themselves. When Calabi Mori found the person in charge of the Moon Shadow Fertilizer Factory under the new flyer, Manager Sandy from the Moon Shadow Tribe, the other side gave a condition that Mori couldn't agree to. "Dear Manager Sandy, may I ask what you need a piece of territory for?" Mori suppressed the absurdity in his heart and asked Sandy with a frown, "According to what I know, your Moon Shadow Tribe has always lived in the Principality of Constantine, right? Then even if you want a piece of territory from our Sac Kingdom, it shouldn't be of any use to you." Sandy's long ears trembled, and after hesitating a bit, she revealed an unnatural smile as she said, "You don't need to understand what use this has to us, you just need to know that this is the condition we put forward. If you're willing to agree, we can sell cement to you. If you don't agree, then goodbye." Mori was speechless as he looked at Sandy. He thought that the elves really were as unreasonable as the legend said. They didn't have any negotiation skills at all. They just put out this condition like this. After pausing, Mori didn't give up as he asked, "This. Manager Sandy, can we change the condition? Other than territory, I can't agree to any condition." "No." Sandy shook her head as she spoke with a calm and determined look. Mori could only give a bitter smile. Although when he was negotiating with the new flyer, he found that their chairman Sue E and CEO Kennard were very sly and hard to deal with, making him suffer quite a bit. Compared to them, he would rather deal with Sue E and Kennard for a long time than negotiate with this beautiful female elf. Because this female elf wasn't negotiating with him at all. After being silent for a bit, Mori thought of how XXX had personally found him before leaving and told him about this situation. He took a deep breath and decided not to give up too early. After thinking about it, he asked, "All right, Manager Sandy, can I know what your side's specific request is? For example, what kind of territory do you need? Also, what do you want to use this territory for? You should know that if your side's territory is a threat to our Sac Kingdom, we won't agree no matter what." Sandy nodded and took out a document for Mori. Mori was a bit surprised. He never thought that these elves had already prepared this plan. It was clear that they were already prepared. What surprised him even more was that the elves had prepared this plan ahead of time like humans. This was just like how humans would do it. After carefully looking over the document, Mori found that the Moon Shadow Tribe was only asking for a piece of land close to the Black Rice Wasteland. It was close to the sea to the west and wasn't that big, only being around 10 square kilometers. If this piece of land wasn't deliberately found, perhaps Mori, who was born in the Sac Kingdom, wouldn't be able to find it immediately. Seeing this, Mori let out a sigh of relief. If the Moon Shadow Tribe was asking for an important piece of land in the Sac Kingdom, the Sac Kingdom wouldn't agree no matter what. Now that they were asking for this remote and unremarkable piece of land, there was a bit of possibility of discussion. Moreover, because the Moon Shadow Tribe's request was too important, it wasn't something that a trivial foreign trade director of the agricultural department could handle, so it wasn't related to him at all. The only thing he needed to do now was to pass on the Moon Shadow Tribe's request and give it to His Majesty to make a decision. Thinking of this, Mori revealed a smile to Sandy and said with a slight nod, "Manager Sandy, I hope that you can give us some time to consider." Sandy also gave a slight nod, "No problem." After pausing, Sandy seemed to have thought of something. "Director Mori, I have to remind you that the fertilizer has a time limit. If you take too long to make a decision, it's very likely that you'll miss this year's most important spring planting period." Mori's expression froze as he cursed in his heart, but he could only give a dejected nod. There was no other way, it was all for the food. A pie falling from the sky event, cool phones are waiting for you. Follow click on the Chinese network, add a friend on WeChat, add a public account, type thread, and immediately participate. Everyone has a prize, immediately follow the thread WeChat account. Chapter 754. Emole and Sandy's negotiations couldn't last that long. After obtaining the elven race's conditions from Sandy, Mori immediately took his leave. Sandy was right, there was a time limit to the use of fertilizer. If they missed the best fertilization period for the spring plowing, the Sac Kingdom would have wasted an entire spring planting season. According to the information gathered from the Lampari Kingdom and the Principality of Constantine, the increase in yield after using fertilizer was quite large. If they could use fertilizer in this spring plowing, the Sac Kingdom's grain yield might increase again. Perhaps they really could become self-sufficient. Of course, he didn't directly leave Banta City that he chose to negotiate with the new flyer, rather he sent the news back to the Sac Kingdom through another channel. While patiently waiting for the king's decision and the kingdom's parliament's final reply, he needed to use this time to strengthen his inspection of Banta City, trying to learn more things from this shocking city. However, Emole never thought that as soon as he left, there would be someone that he didn't expect to enter the negotiation room. Seeing this person walk in, Sandy changed her cold and unapproachable attitude and got up to greet him with a smile. "Chairman Su, do you think my performance just now is up to standard? Have we met your requirements for negotiation?" Su-yi looked away from Emole leaving and turned to look at Sandy. With a faint smile, he asked back, "What do you think?" Sandy blinked and instantly deflated, shaking her head in disappointment. "It seems like I didn't. Chairman Su, the human negotiation skills you mentioned are so hard, I feel that I can't learn it no matter what." Su-yi laughed and softly patted her shoulder as he said, "Actually, you don't have to learn our human negotiation skills. Your performance just now was quite good in terms of result. You see, it's because of your behavior that Director Mori feels that there's no way for him to bargain with you, so in the end, he can only accept your conditions." He didn't accept it. He just said that he would give them time to study it. Sandy said in a surprised voice. "Believe me, they will accept it in the end." Su-yi said in a voice filled with confidence. "Is that so?" Sandy thought for a bit before revealing a smile. "Then that's great. Like this, the elder's wish will be fulfilled and our tribe will have another place to live." Seeing the happy Sandy, Su-yi slightly knit his brows. "Actually, Sandy, I still don't understand why Elder Lasagna insists on getting a piece of land. The Sac Kingdom's demand for fertilizer is very strong. Just like Emole said, they will agree to any conditions you give them, so why don't you give them better conditions?" Sandy shook her head. "I'm not clear. But I think the elder wants to give our tribe a piece of land that belongs to us." Su-yi was silent. Sandy. After thinking for a bit, he suddenly understood something. Perhaps it was because the elves didn't have a place that belonged to them for thousands of years after the race wars, so they longed for this kind of land. For example, when the Azhara tribe proposed their conditions to the Kingdom of Ruhr, the first thing they chose was for the Kingdom of Ruhr to give their tribe a piece of land. For the kingdom of Ruhr, that piece of land had always been a desolate place, and it had always been occupied by the Azhara tribe. Even if the Azhara tribe didn't want it, it had always been under the control of the Azhara tribe, so they only had a subordinate relationship with the kingdom of Ruhr in name. Compared to the benefits they received from the Azhara tribe, this relationship in name wasn't important at all. Even if many humans cared about this relationship in name, the kingdom of Ruhr had 10,000 ways to solve this problem in name. Now that the Moon Shadow tribe had made the same request to the Sac kingdom, the Sac kingdom would agree in the end after careful consideration. After all, the piece of land the Moon Shadow tribe wanted wasn't of any use to the Sac kingdom, so using it to exchange for the most important fertilizer wasn't a loss at all. Thinking of this, Su-yi thought of the Nightsong tribe. The Azhara tribe needed a piece of land and the Moon Shadow tribe also needed a piece of land. But the Nightsong tribe that Su-yi had first contacted never had the same request. Of course, this might be because the Nightsong tribe only had a population of 1,000, so they didn't need a piece of land urgently. Right, Chairman Su, can you help me with something? Sandy suddenly said. What is it? You're going to the magic sedan race later, right? You should be meeting the elder, right? Yes. What? You want me to pass on the results of the negotiations with the Sac Kingdom? Su-yi asked back. And there are still some things at the factory, so I can't leave. Can I trouble you to pass on the results to the elder? No problem. Su-yi nodded. After pausing, he continued, You should be busy during this time. If nothing unexpected happens, the Sac Kingdom will agree to your conditions. Then according to the estimates, the Sac Kingdom will need to buy at least 100,000 tons of fertilizer for wheat. With your current output, this is a very large pressure. Yes. Sandy nodded as a difficult look appeared on her face. Chairman Su, I wanted to discuss this matter with you. Our fertilizer factory is planning to order another set of fertilizer processing equipment. It would be best if it could be delivered by the end of the month. Otherwise, I'm afraid that, if the Sac Kingdom agrees, we won't be able to produce enough fertilizer. Su-yi laughed. Sandy, if I told you that the new fertilizer processing equipment is already on the way, would you be surprised? Sandy's eyes opened wide in surprise. Really? That's great. Chairman Su, you really are too wise. Su-yi gave a shrug. Actually, this is a bit risky. This is because I don't know what conditions you'll give the Sac Kingdom. If they don't agree, you won't need to increase production and the fertilizer processing equipment we're making will be ruined. No, Chairman Su, even without the Sac Kingdom, I'm still considering the problem of increasing production. There are many countries that want to order fertilizer from us, so I already had plans to increase production. Sandy waved her hand. Very good. Sandy, for you to have this idea, it means that you're finally a decent manager. Su-yi said with a faint smile. Receiving Su-yi's praise, Sandy revealed a happy smile like a little girl. However, Su-yi's next question made her smile freeze on her face. But Sandy, although the equipment is enough, what about the problem of manpower? Can you solve it? Sandy was stunned for a bit before shaking her head with a bitter smile. I'm afraid it's very hard. There are only so many people in the tribe, so I can only have the brothers and sisters in the factory work overtime. Su-yi was silent for a bit before asking, Have you considered recruiting workers from other races? For example, us human workers? Sandy took a deep look at Su-yi before shaking her head. No, I won't consider it for now. Su-yi nodded and didn't ask Sandy anything else. But an hour and a half later, when Su-yi saw Elder Lasagna sitting in her personal car preparing for the race at the Banta circuit, he couldn't help raising this question again. Elder Lasagna didn't immediately reject him like Sandy did. To be honest, I've considered this problem. But Chairman Su, you should know that I don't care about the income of the fertilizer processing factory, so it doesn't matter if the output is high or low. But if the fertilizer processing factory recruits workers from other races, we need to let our clansmen and workers from other races be together for a long time. Isn't this very good? Sui asked back. When we set up the fertilizer processing factory, I told you that this was a good opportunity for you elves to integrate with us humans. The problem is that our clansmen are not mentally prepared, Elder Lysania retorted. Elder Lysania refuted. If we let them interact with other races, they won't be used to it. Sui was speechless. This fertilizer processing factory had been set up for 5 years and the Moon Shadow Tribe's elves normally interacted with humans, but they still weren't prepared to integrate with other races. This really was too slow. But I can see that you're integrating quite well. Look, you're even taking the magic sedan race that many races are participating in as part of your routine. Sui said. This is my personal hobby. Then again, I am an elder, so of course I have to set an example for my clansmen. Elder Lysania replied in a natural manner. Sui couldn't help rolling his eyes. Elder Lysania had always been very interested in racing cars. It wasn't wrong to say that this was her personal hobby, but saying that she had to set an example for her clansmen. Wasn't this a bit like using her position for personal gain? But based on the attitudes of Sandy and Elder Lysania, Sui knew that at least the Moon Shadow Tribe wasn't prepared to integrate into human society. And the Moon Shadow Tribe was the tribe that had the most contact with humans out of the 3 elven tribes that he knew. If it was the Nightsong Tribe or the Azhara Tribe, this question wouldn't need to be asked at all. Thinking of this, Sui moved to the side of the audience and silently watched the racers prepare for the race. This was already the 3rd year that the Magic Sedan race had been held in Banta City. Last year, because His Highness Frank had suddenly sent a representative, the race had been sealed and there weren't many spectators. But this year, with the new flyers advertising and the private advertising of the young nobles of Banta City, it attracted quite a few people and attracted a lot of attention. Moreover, even if the Magic Sedan race wasn't mentioned, just the racers were worth writing about. For example, there were many racers from other races in this race. Other than the Beastmen, there was even an elder from the elf race. Even among the human racers, there was an incomparable Lord Arch-Magus like Teacher Carmilla. Just putting these racers together was enough to attract the attention of countless people. So before today's race began, the audience was already filled with people. If it wasn't for Sui having his own special seat, he might not even have been able to find a place to watch. Not long after he sat down, there was a commotion that came from behind him. Sui turned to look and found that it was Banta City's city lord, Count Will, who had brought his subordinates over. Sui raised his hand to greet them, but he was surprised to find that Count Will's expression was very serious, so he couldn't help being surprised. Chairman Su, you really are here. Count Will nodded to Sui before pointing behind him. Sui understood and stood up to follow him into the arena, entering a sealed room. After closing the door, Sui looked at Count Will's sunken expression and asked in a confused voice, "What is it? Sir Count Will, did something happen?" Count Will's subordinates behind him left the room and had them close the door. Then he took out a thin document from his chest and slapped it on the table in front of Sui as he said in a low voice, "Chairman Su, please give a reasonable explanation. Pay attention to the Chinese network's official account, add a friend on WeChat, add a public account, type KDRED, and immediately participate. Everyone has a prize, immediately follow the KDRED official account." Chapter 755. Sui looked at Count Levi with a bit of confusion. What was it that made Count Levi, who had always been friendly to him, reveal such a serious expression, even forcing him to give an explanation? Looking over the document, Sui found that it was actually a document from the Lampari Kingdom's Military Intelligence Department. The contents of the document weren't complicated, it just described that in a hidden place near the Sac Kingdom's capital, Nordham City, there was a Sac Kingdom's army that seemed to be equipped with magic repeating crossbows. According to the picture on the document, it was clearly the same as the magic repeating crossbows made by New Flyer. Other than that, the report also said that the Sac Kingdom's army was developing magic bazookas and other military magic machines, so they needed to pay more attention to them. After reading this document, Sue was silent for a bit before asking Count Levi, "Sir Count, what explanation do you need me to give?" Count Levi knit his brows and his face sunk even more. "Chairman Sue, are you pretending to be confused? Only your New Flyer has the ability to develop military magic machines, but now the Sac Kingdom's army is actually equipped with magic repeating crossbows while also developing magic bazookas and other military magic machines. This should be related to your company." Sue gave a laugh before asking back, "Sir Count, what status are you using to ask me this question?" Count Levi was stunned before angrily saying, "Chairman Sue, what do you mean by this? The Sac Kingdom is our Lampari Kingdom's enemy, as well as your New Flyer's enemy. Now that there is such a serious problem, I'm asking you to give an explanation. Is there a problem?" Sue looked at him with a faint smile before shaking his head. "Sir Count, I hope that you understand something. The New Flyer was the New Flyer, and the Lampari Kingdom was the Lampari Kingdom. Although we have always had a pleasant cooperation and I am happy to continue supporting the Lampari Kingdom, this does not mean that the New Flyer will be completely aligned with the Lampari Kingdom, nor does it mean that we should act according to the wishes of the Lampari Kingdom." Count Levi didn't expect Sue's reply to be so unyielding. He was shocked and stared at Sue for a while. After a while, he raised his voice in disbelief. "Chairman Sue, what do you mean? Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?" The smile on Sue's face disappeared, and his expression turned cold. "Sir Count, we've always had a pleasant cooperation, but now you're questioning me because of an unconfirmed piece of information and showing such a distrustful attitude. I'm very confused about this. If this is your personal behavior, then I can reluctantly accept it. But if you're questioning me on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen, then I can only express my disappointment." "You." Count Levi raised his eyebrows as if he was about to get angry, but he suddenly thought of something and his expression changed greatly. Sue quietly watched his expression change several times before a trace of panic flashed across his face. He snorted softly, threw the information document on the table, and left the room. When he returned to the audience seats, he found that the match was about to begin. Sue found a place to sit down and calmly waited for the match to begin. After a while, there were messy footsteps behind him as a figure came to Sue's side. "Sue." "Chairman Sue." Sue looked up at Count Levi, who had a complicated expression, and pointed to the seat next to him. "Sit down and talk." Count Levi hesitated a bit before nodding and sitting down next to Sue. There were several important people from Banta City who had been invited to watch the match, but after Count Levi sat down, the subordinates that Count Levi brought them to a place far away from the two of them. For a while, the people closest to the two of them were over 10 meters away. In this noisy environment, there was no need to worry about others hearing their conversation. Count Levi was still a bit worried, but after seeing Sue's expression, he didn't say anything else. After hesitating for a bit, he cleared his throat and said in a low voice, "Chairman Sue, I'm very sorry for my attitude just now. Other than that, I have to clarify something. Everything I did just now was my personal decision. Her Majesty didn't know about it at all." "Is that so? Then why is this piece of information in your hands?" Sue calmly asked back. Seeing that Sue still didn't have a smile on his face, Count Levi couldn't help wiping his forehead before quickly explaining, "Chairman Sue, you should know that Banta City has a military magic machine research department and a factory. The Army headquarters gave this information to me because they wanted me to pay attention to if there were any problems on our side. I was confused for a moment, so I suspected you and the New Flyer. I hope that Chairman Su will forgive me. Su-yi gave a noncommittal nod. He wasn't surprised by the large change in attitude from Count Levi, because as long as Count Levi wasn't an idiot, he would easily understand that for the current Lampari kingdom, the new flyer was an indispensable, important, and even decisive partner. It wasn't exaggerated to say that the strength of the Lampari kingdom was mostly in the hands of the new flyer. In this situation, Count Levi needed to win over Su-yi the most and not offend him. If he came to question Su-yi because of this information, if he really offended Su-yi, the cooperation between the new flyer and the Lampari kingdom wouldn't be smooth. Count Levi would become the sinner of the entire Lampari kingdom. Su-yi also believed that Seveni didn't have anything to do with Count Levi's questioning attitude, because whether it was their relationship or Seveni's intelligence, she wouldn't do something this stupid. Rather, it was Count Levi's sudden reaction that was a bit strange. Su-yi didn't say anything the entire time, so Count Levi felt a large pressure in his heart. But as the person involved, he had to think of a way to save this matter, and he had to clear the doubts in his heart. So he carefully thought about it before carefully asking, "Then Chairman Su, what do you think? Is the matter in this report? How likely is it?" Su-yi gave a sigh in his heart. He pretended to think about it before replying. It should be very likely. After all, the magic repeating crossbows aren't high-tech things. The Sac Kingdom has fought with your Lampari Kingdom's northern army many times and suffered many losses, so they definitely have some research on these things. It wouldn't be too difficult to make some magic repeating crossbows based on this. But there's also the research on the magic bazookas and other military magic machines. There is definitely research. Moreover, it isn't just the Sac Kingdom. I believe that the Kingdom of Ruhr also has research on this. Even the Mirando Duchy and the Drake Duchy have research on this in secret. As for your Lampari Kingdom, your research shouldn't be weak right now. No, our Lampari Kingdom is only doing some simple research on the military magic machine technology that your new flyer gave us. We're still far from being able to produce the complicated military magic machines like the magic bazookas. Count Levi waved his hand to deny it. Su-yi smiled and was too lazy to argue with him, so he continued, "Research is definitely being done, but working on it and actually being able to do it are two different things. So I believe that the Sac Kingdom is doing research on this. As for their research progress, I feel that there's no need to worry about it for now." This. Count Levi looked at Su-yi, looking like he wanted to say something, but then hesitated. Su-yi revealed a faint smile and shook his head. "It's impossible for our new flyer to take the initiative to provide military magic machine technology to others. Your Lampari Kingdom can't do it, so there's no need to mention the Sac Kingdom." Count Levi let out a long sigh of relief. A smile finally appeared on his face as he said with a strong nod, "I believe that Chairman Su will still treat us as the best partners." "Of course." Su-yi nodded with a faint smile before continuing, "Speaking of cooperation, I have something I want to talk to you about. Our company is planning to invest in a machine tool factory in Banta City, and according to our usual cooperation, I need you to help me find a suitable partner. How about it? There's no problem, right?" "No problem. Of course there's no problem." Count Levi was surprised. After thinking about it, he asked, "Chairman Su, building a machine tool factory in Banta City, does that mean that your new flyer will be building a magic machine factory in Banta City in the future?" Su-yi nodded. "There is this possibility." "That's great." It was no wonder that Count Levi was this excited. According to the usual cooperation between New Flyer and the Lampari Kingdom, they had always used a joint venture model. New Flyer would mainly invest in technology. Like this, the Lampari Kingdom as a partner had a large chance of obtaining technology through this cooperation. Before this, the Lampari Kingdom had obtained quite a bit of household magic machine technology from New Flyer through this cooperation. They had quickly and greatly increased the level of the Lampari Kingdom's household magic machine companies, allowing the Lampari Kingdom's household magic machine industry to grow quite a bit. In the past 2 years, other than the Xinfei brand household magic machines that sold well in the surrounding countries, the Lampari Kingdom also had quite a few household magic machines that sold well, bringing quite a bit of income to the Lampari Kingdom. Now that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was planning to build a production magic machine factory in Banta City, and they were willing to build a production magic machine factory, it meant that the Lampuri Kingdom would be able to obtain the production magic machine technology from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. If this became a reality, it would allow the Lampari Kingdom to greatly benefit from this technology. Suddenly receiving this promise from Sui, Count Levi was naturally very happy. The doubt and anger that filled his heart towards Sui because he had suddenly obtained that piece of information had instantly disappeared. Chairman Su, thank you for supporting our Lampari Kingdom, and I hope that our cooperation can continue like this forever. Count Levi took the initiative to reach out his hands and tightly hold Suyi's hand, as he said this with an excited look. For my presumptuous words just now, I express my deep apologies again. I hope that Chairman Su won't take it to heart. Sui revealed a faint smile. This method of giving a stick and then eating a date really was the best method that could be used in different worlds since ancient times. A good activity like a pie falling from the sky. Cool phones are waiting for you. Click on the official Chinese account, add a friend on WeChat, add a public account, type KDRED, and participate immediately. Everyone will receive a prize. Immediately follow the official KDRED WeChat account. Chapter 756. This year's Magic Sedan race attracted the attention of countless people, but most people were focused on the racers and not many people were focused on the cars themselves. When the race was over, the reports of the newspapers were all related to the drivers and almost none of them were related to the Magic Sedans. Sui wasn't satisfied with this because it lost the reason why he held this race and attracted people's attention to the Magic Sedans. The other racers weren't very satisfied either. They came to participate in this race because they loved racing cars, so they wanted to show off their skills through this race. However, most people's gazes were focused on Archmagus Camilla, Elder Lysania, and other special contestants, not paying attention to their driving skills. 1. It was because they attracted more attention, and 2. It was because the Magic Sedans weren't popular yet. Most people didn't understand the Magic Sedans and didn't know anything about driving skills, so they couldn't pay attention to them even if they wanted to. So not long after this year's Xinfei Magic Sedan race ended, the Banta Times suddenly released a special publication called Magic Car Weekly. This was a publication that was released once a week and had a total of 30 pages. The content was focused on magic cars. The so-called magic cars didn't just include the magic sedans, it also included the various transport and passenger magic cars. But in the beginning, this Magic Car Weekly only gave a simple introduction to the basics of magic cars. The main idea was to let the public understand what magic cars were. When it came to introducing the magic sedans, this Magic Car Weekly gave a detailed division of the magic sedans for the first time. The ones that the public used were called civilian magic sedans. The magic sedans that the racers used before were specially modified to be faster than civilian magic sedans, so they were called magic race cars. In the first issue of the Magic Car Weekly, it said that there wasn't much of a difference between the magic race cars and the magic sedan, but as the magic car technology kept improving, in the future, the magic sedans would be completely different from the magic race cars. For the magic race cars, they would keep chasing after faster speeds and higher performance. As for the civilian magic sedans, they would pay more attention to how normal people felt when using them, focusing on comfort. The Magic Car Weekly also revealed that New Flyer's magic car development was already heading in these two different directions. According to internal information, at the end of the year, New Flyer would release a new magic sedan, and there would be 2 different models based on this trend. One type was more towards home use, focused on comfort, and was geared towards the general public. The other was more focused on speed, performance, and those who pursued speed. It's said that the New Flyer had made a breakthrough in the magic engine technology, which could greatly increase the speed of the magic car. It could even reach a shocking speed of 150 kilometers per hour. Most people didn't understand the various technical terms, but they could still understand the speed. 150 kilometers per hour? What an exaggerated concept. If they really had this speed, didn't that mean that it would take less than 3 hours to go from Banta City to Anvilmar City? This was too miraculous. The first issue of the Magic Car Weekly easily sold like hotcake. In just 3 days there were over 70,000 orders. It made it so that the 2 printing factories in Banta City couldn't finish on time even if they worked overtime. With this popularity, when the second issue of the Magic Car Weekly came out, the first issue would still be selling like hotcake. This forced the Banta Times to seek the help of the printing factories in the surrounding cities. The reason why the Magic Car Weekly sold like hotcakes was naturally because of its content. This was the first publication related to the magic car, so the various aspects of the magic car satisfied countless people's curiosity towards the magic car. For some people with ulterior motives, through this weekly publication, they could obtain the knowledge that they had always dreamed of. This was something that Instructor Carmilla and Elder Lysania were very worried about. Hey, Chairman Sue, aren't you worried that the technology you've worked so hard to develop will be leaked? Elder Lysania had a confused look. Elder Lysania had a look of confusion on her face. Now that the magic car is this popular, I'm certain that there are countless human companies that want to make their own magic cars. Now that you've deliberately made the Banta Times publish this Magic Car Weekly, isn't this helping them? Relax, Elder Lysania, I know what I'm doing. Although there is a lot of content in the Magic Car Weekly, it can only give people a basic understanding of the magic car. It's impossible to develop a magic car with just this content. Sui said with a smile, this is a very complicated matter. Making a magic car is a very complicated project. Even for our Frestec Chamber of Commerce, it took several years to develop the first one. You can ask grandfather if you don't believe me. I do believe this. Instructor Carmilla nodded, but her knit brows didn't relax at all. But Sue, you're always revealing the technology that you worked hard to grasp. I'm afraid it isn't good. It's fine if it's the magic car, but shouldn't you be more strict with the military magic machine technology? This thing is too important, the effects of leaking it would be too big. Sue looked at Instructor Carmilla in surprise. Instructor Carmilla gave a shrug. During the race, I noticed that there was something wrong between you and Count Levi, so I went to ask him. Sue was speechless. When he was talking to Count Levi, it was at the most intense part of the race. Instructor Carmilla actually had the time to notice the strange atmosphere between him and Count Levi in the middle of such an intense race. This really made people speechless. Yes, at that time I also noticed that there was something wrong. But I'm not good at communicating with you humans, so I just felt that it wasn't normal, but I didn't find any problems. Elder Lysania on the side said with a nod. Sue could only be speechless again. It seemed like these two were just too strong, so the magic sedan that could go over 100 kilometers an hour wasn't a challenge to them at all. They even had the time to care about the situation around them. Moreover, Elder Lysania was an elf with excellent eyesight. It was fine if she could notice it, but why could Instructor Carmilla see it as well? What is strange about this? As an archmagus, space isn't a problem for me at all. Instructor Carmilla looked at him and explained. Even if his talent was outstanding, Sue, who was only a first-grade great magician, had nothing to say. You don't need to worry about the military magic machines, everything is under my control. Sue replied with a faint smile. Instructor Carmilla doubtfully looked at Sui, but she didn't ask anything. Elder Lasagna didn't care about this problem at all. Compared to this, what she cared about the most was New Flyer's research on the new magic car. The information that Sui gave the Banta Times was that New Flyer's new magic sedan could reach a speed of 150 kilometers an hour. But the information that he told Instructor Carmilla and Elder Lasagna in private was that in theory, the new magic sedan could reach a speed of 170 kilometers an hour or even higher. But there were very strict conditions to reach this speed, and there was a very high requirement for the driver, so it wasn't a small risk. Instructor Carmilla had already expressed that she would participate in the experiment, and Elder Lasagna was very interested in this. She was discussing with Sui now. She wanted to record her participation in the experiment of the new magic car through the illusion array. Sui was a bit doubtful about this. Elder Lasagna, what do you want to record this for? Moreover, there are many secrets in the experiment, so if it's recorded and it's leaked, it will have quite a bit of influence on our company. I've seen the New Moon Chamber of Commerce's documentary on the New Moon Troupe, and I saw a film made by the New Moon Chamber of Commerce and the Azhara tribe from Steel a few days ago. It recorded the lives of us elves, as well as the interactions between the elves of the Azhara tribe and the humans of the New Moon Chamber of Commerce. So I had an idea. Elder Lasagna paused as if she was a bit hesitant. I feel that this is a very good advertisement. If more people and elves can see us elves and humans living together, it should make it easier for humans to accept us elves. At the same time, it should make our fellow elves more willing to accept this. Oh! Sui looked at Elder Lasagna in surprise. Elder Lasagna had said that her clansmen weren't prepared yet, but now she had suddenly changed her mind and wanted to seek change. This really was worth celebrating. This isn't a bad idea, but there's a problem. But there is a problem. It isn't hard to let humans see these things, but how can we let the other elves on the continent see them? Sui asked. You'll be in charge of the humans and I'll be in charge of the elves. Elder Lasagna said. How about it? Do you think there's a problem? Sui thought about it and felt that this was indeed a very good idea. Moreover, if Elder Lasagna was willing to personally appear, this could be used as an advertisement for the New Flyer's new magic sedan, which would without a doubt be a very good gimmick. Thinking of Elder Lasagna driving the Shinfei brand magic sedan around human cities, Sui couldn't help becoming excited. After Steel retired, the New Flyer hadn't had a star to represent them in a long time. Now that Elder Lasagna had taken the initiative to volunteer, Sui had a very good idea. A pie falling from the sky, I'm waiting for you to get a cool phone. Follow me, click on the Chinese website, add a friend on WeChat, add a public account, type KDRED, and participate immediately. Everyone will get a prize. Immediately follow the KDRED WeChat account. Chapter 757. When the magic sedan passed the border between the Kingdom of Roer and the Principality of Constantine, heading towards the slight dream forest under the cliff, Russell found that there was an incomparably thick iron pillar that reached into the clouds in the slight dream forest in front of him. At the top of this iron pillar, there was a light blue glow that shot up, and then there was a giant illusion at the top. Although it was an illusion, because of the rich colors and the realistic details, it was no different from the real thing. As for the content of the illusion, even if it was far away, because the illusion was very big, it could be seen very clearly. First, it showed a bustling street with countless people. There were all kinds of magic cars on the street, even stopping at the traffic lights. On both sides of the street there were all kinds of shops with all kinds of magic lights flickering on them. Just like the people on the street, there were humans, elves, orcs, dwarves, and other races shuttling back and forth, making the whole street very lively. As for the items sold in the shops on both sides of the street, they were all kinds of household magic machines. This street was completely different from any other street in signs. If one really had to compare it, this street was simply like another world. The scene in the illusion suddenly changed before finally focusing on an elf girl walking down the street. She was currently discussing something with a human girl beside her. As if she could feel that the scene was focused on her, the elf girl suddenly turned her head and revealed a beautiful smile. At the same time, she raised the magic stove in her hand and said in a clear voice, "The Xinfei brand magic stove, it's a good helper for furniture and cooking." The human girl beside her also came over with a magic rice cooker in her hand. She also said with a smile, "It also has to be used with the Xinfei brand magic rice cooker." After saying this, the two girls looked at each other with smiles. For a while, the two beauties of different races reflected each other, filling the illusion with beauty and vitality. The scene changed again, and it came to a shop that was being renovated on the side of the street. The two workers, a human male and a beast man male, were sweating profusely because of the heavy manual labor. Their bodies were steaming hot. When the scene was focused on this side, there was a young human dressed as a waiter who took out a small and delicate magic fan. He placed it not far from the two of them and pressed the switch. There was a cool breeze that came from the magic fan, making the two workers reveal comfortable looks. The Beastman worker broke out in laughter. "The Xinfei brand magic fan, it's this strong." The scene changed again. The scene in the illusion kept changing, but no matter what scene it was all related to the Xinfei brand household magic machines. After seeing this illusion, even if people didn't understand the Frestec brand household magic machines, it would leave a deep impression on them, and they would have some understanding of them. Russell didn't care about new flyer household magic machines. After seeing this scene, he couldn't help being surprised. But compared to this, he cared more of the illusion itself. Such a large illusion, just how did it come out? When the magic sedan kept going down and finally entered the slight dream forest, they couldn't see the illusion anymore. Russell couldn't help asking Ambassador Hakkinen beside him this. "That is an illusion film made by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's magic illusion projector. Sir Russell, what you just saw was their latest advertisement for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's household magic machines. It's said that it is for people who don't understand household magic machines." Ambassador Hakkinen often came here, and adding in the fact that he worked with New Flyer on household magic machines, he understood it very well. Magic illusion projector? Illusion film? Russell clicked his tongue in surprise. This thing really is amazing. It can actually make such a realistic illusion that meets the requirements of New Flyer. After pausing, he asked, "Can this thing be bought?" "Yes, New Flyer has been selling this thing for a long time, but because it's too expensive and there aren't many illusions to watch, it doesn't seem to be selling well." After saying this, Ambassador Hakkinen had a strange look on his face. "Speaking of this should be the only new product that New Flyer has failed, right? No matter what new product New Flyer released before, it would always sell well. Is that so?" Russell couldn't help raising a brow. If it really was like Ambassador Hakkinen said, that New Flyer would sell well no matter what new product it released, it really was incredible. But thinking of his goal in coming here, Russell had to admit that the magic machines produced by the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce did have a charm that people couldn't resist. Otherwise, why would he take the initiative to come all the way from the Kanla Empire to discuss with New Flyer again? The magic sedan carrying Russell and Ambassador Hakkinen sped across the flat road, and it didn't take long for them to leave the slight dream forest. A small city that was completely different from any other city on the continent appeared at the end of the road. Even if it was Russell's second time seeing this city, his heart was filled with shock when he saw it. It had only been a year since he came here last time, but this small city had already changed greatly. Not only had it become bigger, it couldn't be called a small city anymore. At the same time, there were more tall buildings in the city, and there were more roads around it. There were countless magic cars driving across the roads, entering and leaving the city, showing the prosperity of this city. Driving into the city, one would find that this city was different from the other cities on the continent. For example, each street in this city was incomparably wide, with the narrowest place being over 20 meters wide. Moreover, each street was flat and straight, looking very neat. Or, for example, there were green plastic trash cans in the style of elves placed every 50 meters on the sides of the street. If people needed to throw their trash, they would throw it all into these trash cans. This made these streets very clean. It was far from being as messy as the streets of other cities. Or, for example, there were all kinds of shops on the sides of the street. They were filled with the style of different races like the people on the street, making the entire street very attractive. There were all kinds of strange products that complemented the prosperity of this city. Or, for example, Russell sat in the magic sedan and observed it for a while. Although he wasn't too used to this style, he had to admit that this city was filled with a shocking temptation from the outside to the inside. Compared to this city, any other city on the continent would exude a strong sense of backwardness. Even the capital of the Canla Empire, Wimbledon City, the most advanced city on the continent, compared to this city, it paled in comparison. It's no wonder people say that New Flyer is a company from another world. Look at this city, it's like it's from another world. Russell couldn't help giving an emotional sigh. Is that so? Ambassador Hakkinen looked at Russell with a strange gaze before saying with a shrug, I don't think it's that exaggerated. But perhaps I've been with New Flyer for a long time and I'm already used to it. But this is right, I feel very uncomfortable whenever I come back to Wimbledon City because everything in Wimbledon City seems so backwards. Look, Wimbledon City doesn't even have running water, it's just too inconvenient. Other than that, there's no street lights at night, so it's meaningless to go out. Also, hearing Ambassador Hakkinen complain about Wimbledon City, Russell was speechless. He had to admit that the problems Ambassador Hakkinen mentioned about Wimbledon City did exist, and it was indeed very inconvenient. But before this, every city on the continent was like this. Wimbledon City was already the most prosperous city on the continent, surpassing the other cities in many aspects. But now because of the appearance of the New Flyer, Wimbledon City couldn't compare. Perhaps Wimbledon City. No, the entire Canla Empire has to accept reality and change. Russell slowly looked up at the New Flyer logo that kept flashing on both sides of the road, and he gave a sigh in his heart. The magic sedan passed through several streets before stopping in front of the building where Russell and Sue-E had met last time. But this time, after getting out of the magic sedan, there was no magic airship waiting for Russell. There was only a New Flyer girl in uniform who came forward to greet him. Compared to last time, the treatment this time was much worse. However, Russell didn't have any objections to this. Last time it was the New Flyer that took the initiative to contact the Canla Empire, but this time it was Russell representing the Canla Empire to request a meeting with the New Flyer. This time the initiative had changed, so the New Flyer taking this stance was expected. Chairman Sue is still meeting me on the top floor? Looking up at the building that was over 20 meters tall, Russell asked in a worried voice. If it was the top floor, it would be too hard for him to climb up the stairs. Yes, please come with me. The receptionist girl had a sweet smile, but the words she said extinguished the hope in Russell's heart. But after the receptionist girl brought him into the building, she didn't go to the stairs. Rather, she went to a corner and pointed at a closed door as she said, Sir Russell, please take the automatic magic elevator upstairs. Automatic magic elevator? Russell was stunned. He found that the metal door in front of him opened, revealing a small sealed space. The receptionist girl made an inviting gesture and Russell paused, but he could only bite the bullet and walk in. It was a good thing that the receptionist girl and Ambassador Hakkinen behind him came in with calm looks, which made him feel a bit assured. After a while, the metal door automatically closed. Russell felt a tremble under his feet before he felt his body rise up along with the metal floor under his feet. After feeling a bit of dizziness from this sudden movement, Russell revealed a bitter smile and shook his head. This new flyer, they really knew how to give people novel experiences in all kinds of strange places. A pie falling from the sky, cool phones are waiting for you. Click on the Chinese website, add a friend on WeChat, add a public account, type thread, and immediately participate. Everyone has a prize. Immediately follow the thread WeChat account. Chapter 758. The metal door slowly opened and the first thing Russell saw was Su Yi's smiling face. Sir Russell, being able to see you again really makes one happy. Su Yi came forward with a smile, while also giving a nod to the fat Ambassador Hakkinen. Russell calmed himself down and walked out of the automatic magic staircase. He reached his hand out to Su Yi with a smile. Chairman Su, I'm also very happy to see you again. Because it was our first time meeting last time, we didn't have a close conversation. I hope that we can have a good exchange this time. Su Yi slightly narrowed his eyes and nodded with a smile. If Sir Russell is willing to have a deep exchange with me, I will very much welcome it. I just don't know if you and the people behind you are ready for it. Seeing that Su Yi was this direct, Russell didn't waste any more words. He said with a nod, since I'm here this time, of course I'm prepared. Chairman Su, I think that we will have a very good chat this time. That is great. Su Yi revealed a happy smile, as he tightened his grip on Russell's hand. Being able to have a friendly and deep exchange with the respected Kanla Empire's navy, that is what I wish for. After exchanging greetings, Su Yi invited Russell and Ambassador Hakkinen to the already prepared table. After the three of them had lunch, Kennard appeared at the right time. Then Ambassador Hakkinen immediately bid farewell and left with Kennard. Every time he came here, he would order a new batch of household magic machines from New Flyer. Because the household magic machines were becoming more and more popular in Wimbledon City, Ambassador Hakkinen would order more and more goods every time he came to New Flyer. Last time, the total value of the household magic machines he ordered had already exceeded 800,000 gold coins. This time, according to his plan, he wanted to order at least 1 million gold coins worth of goods. If it was said that the New Flyer's contact with Ambassador Hakkinen was just to find a channel to open the Kanla Empire, now Ambassador Hakkinen had become a very important partner of the New Flyer. After cooperating with Ambassador Hakkinen many times, Su Yi found that although Ambassador Hakkinen's character was normal, he was very honest when doing business, so he was a very good partner. So under his instructions, the cooperation between the New Flyer and Ambassador Hakkinen became closer and closer. Now New Flyer was not only providing Ambassador Hakkinen with more and more household magic machines, it was also giving him all kinds of benefits. Su Yi was even considering giving Ambassador Hakkinen more cooperation content. For example, the agricultural magic machines that the Sac Kingdom greatly desired had given Su Yi inspiration, giving him the idea of promoting the Xinfei brand agricultural magic machines in the Kanla Empire. To realize this idea, Ambassador Hakkinen was a very good medium. After Ambassador Hakkinen left, Su Yi had all the servants leave. There was only Su Yi and Russell left in the room. The two looked at each other in silence for a bit before Su Yi said, Sir Russell, you came alone this time, so how can I believe that you can represent the Kanla Empire's navy? Russell wasn't surprised by Su Yi's question, so he said with a smile, Chairman Su, don't you think that this question has no meaning? Other than the Empire's navy, I think that no one else would be interested in your New Flyer's guard ships. As for me, although I'm very interested, I can't afford it. Su Yi shook his head. No, Sir Russell, other than the respected Kanla Empire's navy, there have been quite a few people who have expressed interest in our guard ships. Really? Luo Su clearly didn't believe it. Russell didn't believe it. I don't think that other than our Kanla Empire's navy, there are other powers that need these guard ships. That might not be the case. Su Yi refuted. For example, the Malur Empire's navy. They would definitely be very interested in these guard ships. Russell narrowed his eyes as he looked at Sui. After looking at him for a while, his expression became gentle and he let out a soft sigh. He shook his head and said, "All right, Chairman Su, time is precious, so I don't think we should waste time on this meaningless conversation. I can clearly tell you that I am representing our Kanla Empire's navy this time, hoping to buy your new Flyer's guard ship." Sui also smiled. "If you are sincere in buying, then I would certainly welcome you." "Sir Russell, how many ships do you intend to buy?" "I have to say in advance that our Chamber of Commerce's current production capacity is limited. If your demand is too high, I'm afraid we won't be able to satisfy your request in a short time." Russell's face twitched slightly. After a pause, he said with a trace of dejection, "I don't think Chairman Su needs to worry about this. We are only hoping to get a few guard ships to test it out. If the results are satisfactory, then we will consider ordering more guard ship." Sui immediately smiled. "I'm 100% sure that you will be very satisfied with the guard ships." Russell wanted to refute, but he found that he couldn't find the words to refute. He had seen the strength of the new Flyer's guard fleet with his own eyes and was already completely convinced. If it wasn't like this, why would he take such a great risk and forcefully pass the proposal to buy guard ships to the Empire's Navy staff and submit it to the Empire's Navy headquarters in his own name? It had to be known that he would have to bear a very heavy responsibility. If the guard ships he purchased couldn't achieve the results he stated in the report, then the consequences he would have to bear would be extremely severe. "All right, Chairman Su, let's return to the topic at hand," Russell continued. "Our side is indeed interested in purchasing guard ships, but we have great doubts about the price you are willing to pay for them. We cannot accept a price of 2 million gold coins per ship." Sui asked back with a smile, "Then what is the price that your noble side can accept?" Russell raised his hand. "If it's 500,000 gold coins per ship, then we can accept it." The smile on Sui's face immediately froze. The muscles on his face twitched twice before he slowly shook his head. "Impossible. Sir Russell, although haggling is inevitable in a transaction, don't you think this kind of haggling is too excessive?" "Then what is the lowest price you can accept?" Russell asked back. Sui pondered for a moment before he raised a finger to Russell. "Since this is the first time we've worked together, I can give you a certain discount. How about this? I'll reduce the price by 100,000 gold coins per ship. That's 9 million gold coins per ship. What do you think?" "Impossible. This price is too outrageous. We absolutely cannot accept it. 500,000 gold coins. In addition, we can add on some conditions. Chairman Su, what do you think?" "I don't think there are any conditions that can make up for the huge difference of 4 million gold coins per ship." Sui shook his head. "Sir Russell, I'm full of expectations for this transaction. Therefore, I hope that you can also show your sincerity. What if this condition is to help new Flyer successfully enter the Empire?" Sui was slightly startled. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Russell for a while before he slowly nodded. "Sir Russell, please speak clearly." Last time Russell came to the Principality of Constantine, he only stayed for 3 days before leaving. But this time, he stayed for much longer. After staying in the Principality of Constantine for 7 days, Russell finally left with the satisfied ambassador, Hakanen. When they left, Sui represented New Flyer to give Russell a magic boat model as a gift. This magic boat model was made of light alloy. Although it was just a model, it was very delicate and very firm. Sui used his hammer to hit the model twice in front of Russell, but it actually didn't deform the model at all. Russell happily accepted this gift because he was very clear that Sui's gift to him, other than representing the deal between New Flyer and the Kanla Empire's navy, had a commemorative meaning. It was also to prove to him that New Flyer had a high level of technology when it came to making steel. Russell had seen iron that was as pleasantly surprised as this model before, but it was the only one that was this fine and hard. Russell believed that other than New Flyer, there wasn't a second company in the signs that could do this. Even the alloy used to make this model was only produced by New Flyer. This meant that even if the Canla Empire's navy bought the guard ships from New Flyer, it would be very hard for them to imitate these guard ships and make them themselves. From this point of view, Sui giving him this gift was a hidden warning to Russell and the Canla Empire's navy. The guard ships could only be bought from New Flyer, so if the Canla Empire's navy wanted to continue making guard ships, they could only cooperate with New Flyer. Regarding this, Russell felt a bit of humiliation and anger in his heart. But the facts were like this and he couldn't do a thing. Moreover, he was certain that with the high performance of the New Flyer guard ships, those fellows who had never seen them before wouldn't be able to find any reason to object once they saw them. So the Canla Empire's navy would continue buying guard ships from New Flyer and obediently cooperate with New Flyer. Even if he felt a bit humiliated, Russell still believed in his heart that the Empire's navy had to accept this cooperation. Moreover, Russell even had a bit of expectation in his heart. If they followed the cooperation plan proposed by Sui, not only would New Flyer be able to achieve their goal, but the Empire's navy would also be able to gain a lot of benefit. According to Sui's words, this was called win-win. What a good activity where a pie falls from the sky, cool phones are waiting for you. Click on the Chinese network's official account, add a friend on WeChat, add a public account, type Kdred, and participate immediately. Everyone has a prize. Follow Kdred's official account on WeChat. Chapter 759. The steps towards summer gradually became faster, and the weather gradually became hotter. It was different from last year. As soon as it was the middle of May, people began wildly buying Xinfei brand magic fans and magic air conditioners. This was because, according to the experience of last year, New Flyer's production was limited, so the magic fans and magic air conditioners produced each year couldn't keep up with the demand of the market. If one bought it late, it was very likely that they wouldn't be able to buy it at all. Moreover, this summer was when New Flyer's new generation magic fan and magic air conditioner were released, so naturally it attracted people's attention. They had to act first to gain the advantage. According to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's advertisements in the newspapers, the new generation of magic fans used the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's wind-attributed magic engine technology, making the wind much stronger. Moreover, with the water magic array, the wind blown out by the magic fan had a trace of water, making it much cooler and more comfortable for people. Other than this, when the new generation magic fan increased the wind power, because of the increase in the magic array technology, it increased the efficiency of the magic array and decreased the energy consumption of the magic fan. The previous magic fan could maintain one high concentration magic crystal for around 3 days, but the new generation magic fan could increase this to 4 days. Although it seemed like it was just an increase of a day, when it was accumulated, it saved quite a bit of energy each month. The new magic air conditioner was increased in the same direction as the new magic fan, mainly focusing on power and energy consumption. Moreover, the magic air conditioner's energy consumption was much higher than the magic air conditioner, so it was more obvious that it saved energy with the new magic air conditioner. According to a small calculation in the Banta Times, if they used the new magic air conditioner, they would use it for 8 hours a day. In a single month, they would save 3 units of high-concentration magic crystals. With the current price of the New Flyer's high-concentration magic crystals, saving 3 standard high-concentration magic crystals would save over 30 silver coins. Speaking of which, this isn't considered much, right? Steele knit her brows as she looked at the report on the new magic air conditioner in the Banta Times, and she couldn't help shaking her head. It's just 30 silver coins, that's saving for a month. For people who can afford a magic air conditioner that costs 30 gold coins, This isn't something they care about at all. Sui laughed and shook his head. Steele, you are a typical example of a well-fed man not knowing the suffering of a starving man. Wasn't saving 30 silver coins a month a lot? Have you forgotten that there are many people in this world who don't even have enough to eat? Steele snappily glared at Sui. How could someone who can't even eat their fill afford a magic air conditioner? People who can afford the magic air conditioner, how could they care about a trivial 30 silver coins a month? The first half is correct, but the second half is completely wrong. Sui laughed and said, in this world, there are many people who are unwilling to spend money the more they have. For example, we are all familiar with great magician Talachi. If he could save 30 silver coins a month, he would definitely be very happy. Steele gave a laugh. Hey, Sui, if great magician Talachi heard what you said, he would definitely be angry. Relax, he will only be happy after hearing this because he is that kind of person. Sui said with a shrug. Other than that, you've neglected a problem. Steele, just a magic air conditioner can save 30 silver coins a month. If you add in the magic fan, you can save at least 40 silver coins a month. If you spread this to the magic stove, the magic rice cooker, the magic bread maker, the magic lamp, and other household magic machines that people normally use, don't you think that you can save quite a bit of money each month? But who would use so many household magic machines at the same time? Steele suddenly stopped when she said this. After looking at Sui, she suddenly remembered that Sui wasn't wrong at all. After being promoted and developed over the years, the concept of household magic machines was already deeply rooted in the people of the surrounding countries. Basically, as long as it was a family with enough conditions, if they could buy one household magic machine, they would gradually buy other kinds of household magic machines. In the end, their family would have all kinds of household magic machines. This was because after you used a household magic machine, you would be deeply convinced by the convenience it brought. Naturally, you would want to buy more household magic machines, making your life more convenient and comfortable. The Frestec Chamber of Commerce's household magic machine department's profits kept increasing over the years, becoming more and more exaggerated each year. This was because the new magic house concept the Frestec Chamber of Commerce proposed several years ago had been accepted by everyone. To enjoy the convenience of these household magic machines, one had to pay a corresponding price. Other than the large amount of gold coins one had to pay to buy these household magic machines, during the process of using them, these household magic machines would consume magic crystals, which would also incur costs. There was a newspaper in the Lampari Kingdom that had done a similar report. It proved that if a family had all the household magic machines on the market, in a normal situation, they would use at least 60 to 80 high-concentration magic crystals per month. With New Flyer's current price of high-concentration magic crystals, this would cost 6 to 8 gold coins per month. So the newspaper came to a conclusion. The new magic house concept that New Flyer proposed was very good, but to enjoy this new convenient lifestyle, one had to pay the corresponding energy consumption. Although this view was refuted by many other newspapers because even if they didn't use the household magic machines, there would still be various kinds of consumption. For example, the traditional method of using firewood or coal. Not only did it take longer, it also consumed quite a bit of materials. Compared to this, it wasn't as cheap as using the household magic machines. But because the consumption of the traditional lifestyle was hard to quantify, it was very easy to quantify the consumption with the household magic machines, even giving a very accurate number. So it seemed like the consumption of the household magic machines was much higher. Of course, this view didn't stop the household magic machines from selling. No matter how much it cost, the household magic machines greatly improved their daily lives. No one was willing to continue living like this when they had the conditions. But if they could reduce their consumption in this situation, naturally it would be very welcomed. Think about it, just the magic air conditioner could save 30 silver coins a month. Then if they included all the household magic machines in their home, if they could save a bit, wouldn't they be able to save 1 or 2 gold coins a month? In a year, that would be a dozen or even 20 gold coins. It had to be known, just 6 or 7 years ago, whether it was the Lampari Kingdom or the Principality of Constantine, the income of many families was only a few dozen gold coins a year. Thinking of this, Steele instantly understood Su Yi's thoughts. This is also right. For a normal family, being able to save a bit each month is very important. Steele nodded. After thinking for a bit, she asked, "But Su Yi, haven't you always been promoting the standardization of household magic machines? Now that all the other companies are finally using the new Flyer's high-concentration magic crystals, if you raise the slogan of saving energy at this time, wouldn't it affect the sales of the high-concentration magic crystals?" Su Yi gave a shrug. "This was my goal to begin with." "Why?" Steele looked at Su Yi with a confused gaze. Su Yi had always attached great importance to the magic crystal refining technology and had always been promoting the standardization of household magic machines. To Steele, this was clearly laying the foundation for the new Flyer to sell the high-concentration magic crystals. But now Su Yi wanted to reduce the sales of the high-concentration magic crystals. What was the reason for this? Su Yi was silent for a bit, not knowing how to respond to Steele. The idea of reducing energy consumption was deeply ingrained in Su Yi's mind as a person who had transmigrated from Earth. When he started researching magic machines, he already had this idea. Just like how the most popular energy source on Earth, oil, was limited, the magic crystals on signs were all over the place and weren't worth much, but there was also a limit. If one didn't know how to control their consumption, the magic crystals would be used up one day. Even with the amount of magic crystals on signs right now, it would take over 1,000 years before that day would come. But Su Yi wanted to set this principle for the continent from the beginning. Of course, this was for long-term considerations. But for practical considerations, there was an old problem: New Flyer's production capacity wasn't enough. Right now, only New Flyer could refine high-concentration magic crystals, and because of how important this was, Su Yi didn't plan on giving this technology away in the short term. Then it could be seen that for a long time, New Flyer would have to take on the task of producing high-concentration magic crystals for all the magic machines. Even if Su Yi attached great importance to this problem, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's production of high-concentration magic crystals was far from being able to compare to the market's demand for high-concentration magic crystals. According to the data given by the Academy of Magic, if the current situation continued, in at most 3 years, New Flyer's high-concentration magic crystals wouldn't be able to meet the market's demand. If this situation really happened, the consequences would be very serious. Not only would it affect the sales of various household magic machines, it would also affect the energy standard that Su Yi worked hard to implement. Without high-concentration magic crystals, there would be many companies that wouldn't follow this standard. Su Yi's solution to this problem was to split it into 2 parts. One was to strengthen the research of high-concentration magic crystals, increasing the production capacity and the energy use of the high-concentration magic crystals as soon as possible. The other was to use the new magic fan and the new magic air conditioner to convey a new concept to everyone. That was energy conservation. Chapter 760. It was a good thing that Steele wasn't that interested in this question. Seeing that Su Yi seemed a bit troubled, she just smiled and didn't pursue the matter. She turned her attention back to the filming site not far in front of them. Since the magic illusion projector was released, the new Moon Chamber of Commerce, with the support and guidance of Su Yi, and because of Steele's own interest, began to invest more and more into the filming of the magic illusion projector. The Daily Life of the New Moon Troupe documentary was very popular and was requested to be shown many times in the theaters of the various cities. The New Moon Chamber of Commerce took this chance to release the second, third, and even more. They also planned to release a few more films, as well as some related films, creating a series of films. According to the plan, the New Moon Chamber of Commerce would record all the films together and put them in the same recording box, allowing the people who bought the magic illusion projector to watch them at home. As soon as the New Moon Chamber of Commerce's plan was announced, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's magic illusion projector sales went from a lukewarm 200 units a month to over 3,000 units. At the same time, the New Moon Chamber of Commerce also received over 2,500 orders for the Daily Life of the New Moon Troupe series. At this time, the fourth part of the Daily Life of the New Moon Troupe hadn't even started filming yet. Steele's sharp eyes found a large business opportunity in the magic illusion projector, so she immediately shifted the focus of the New Moon Troupe to the filming of the magic illusion projector. Moreover, she convinced Elder Undine to work with the Azhara tribe to film a documentary about the life of the Azhara tribe. After it was released, it was also very popular. At this point, Steele completely believed in Su Yi's prediction of the magic illusion projector. She was certain that with the appearance of this thing, there would be a new entertainment model. While filming various documentaries, the New Moon Chamber of Commerce was also helping the New Flyer film various advertisements. The illusion film that Russell saw when he entered the Principality of Constantine was filmed by the New Moon Chamber of Commerce. It was mainly to introduce the various household magic machines of the New Flyer. And now, the set in front of the two of them was another very important advertisement. The content of this advertisement was very simple. It was related to the New Flyer's new magic sedan, but the people participating in the advertisement weren't simple, because the main character was Elder Lysania. Seeing Elder Lysania driving the brand new red Shinfei brand magic sedan through the road, Steele couldn't help looking at Su Yi with a strange look. When Su Yi told her that Elder Lysania had offered to shoot the advertisement, she was very surprised. Elder Lysania had been filming here for half a day, but she still felt that it was unreal. Elder Lysania was a dignified elder of the elf clan. It was one thing for her to like racing, and it could be regarded as one of her strange personal hobbies. But now, she had come to shoot an advertisement that would definitely be watched by countless people. It really subverted the inherent image of the elves in the minds of the people. Someone who was driving a magic sedan at a very high speed on the road was an elven elder? Steele believed that as long as this news was released, before this advertisement was officially released, it would definitely attract people's attention. Speaking of this, Su Yi, it's fine if Elder Lysania took the initiative to shoot this advertisement, but why did she have to drag Agnes in? Steele looked at the other corner of the set, looking at Agnes, who was talking to several elves in a low voice as she asked this in a doubtful voice. Because Elder Lysania felt that Agnes had already become a model for elves and humans, so she wanted to let as many elves see this advertisement. So not only did she take the initiative to shoot it, she also included Agnes. Su Yi explained. Model? Because Agnes married you? Steele slightly knit her brows. Su Yi, do you think this is good? There's nothing bad about it, right? Su Yi revealed a faint smile. Agnes is an elf after all, so this is for the sake of the entire elf race, so she has no reason to reject it. Moreover, isn't she very happy that she's participating in this advertisement? Of course. Once this advertisement is released, I'm certain that she and Elder Lysania will become stars. Steele said. For Agnes, this must be a very novel experience. Su Yi rolled his eyes at Steele. This really is the tone of an experienced person. I say, Steele, I'm certain that as long as you're willing to come back, you'll be more popular than Agnes. Even in the current Banta city, you still have the title of the Banta goddess. Steele gave a laugh. This is something from many years ago. Our child is already 5 years old. How could the people of Banta City still treat me as a Banta goddess? After saying this, Steele's eyes turned as if she thought of something. Right, Sue, speaking of children. Whether it is Elder Elucia or Elder Lysania, they've always cared about your child with Agnes. But you and Agnes have been together for close to 2 years, so why hasn't there been any movement from Agnes? To be honest, I really want to see what a half-elf child looks like. Sue helplessly spread his hands. Agnes and I have already done everything, but there's no reaction, so I can't do anything. Perhaps it's because you used the wrong method? Sue glared at Steele. Hey, is this something a wife should say to her husband? As a wife, you're this concerned about your husband being with another woman, isn't this right? Steele pursed her lips into a smile. She reached out to pinch Sue-Yi's face and said with a soft snort, "Don't act like you're innocent after taking advantage. Tell me, I'm really curious." It's no use being curious because I also don't know the reason. Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania are countless times more concerned than you, so they've asked me countless times. They've even given me many historical materials on elves and humans for me to study. But it's no use. Then what do we do? Could it be that you and Agnes really can't have a half-elf child? Sue gave a sigh. He turned to look at Agnes, who had a smile on her face and didn't seem worried at all. He shook his head and said, "There's no other way, it seems like we can only wait for the arrangements of the heavens." Steele slightly knit her brows. She looked at Agnes for a while before suddenly saying, "All right, let's ignore Agnes for now. What about Betty and Carol? You've never touched them. Could it be that you're planning on letting them continue like this? There's nothing wrong with that, right?" Sue was a bit surprised. The two of them were forced to me by 70, so I have to respect their wishes. Steele looked at Sue in a daze for a while before giving a sigh. She shook her head and reached out to tap Sue-Yi's forehead. "Sue, you're a gentleman, I like this part of you very much. But do you know that sometimes if you're too gentle, it's actually harmful to others? Betty and Carol are yours now, and no one can change that. You've never touched them. Do you know how painful it is for them? Could it be that you've forgotten Liz and Linda from before?" Sue knit his brows. "Steele, could it be that you're encouraging me to go and combine with them?" Steele glared at Sue and said in a low voice, "That's right. I want you to find a chance to combine with them as soon as possible, the faster the better. Otherwise, if it's delayed by a day, they'll be in pain for another day." Sue knit his brows and looked at Steele for a while. He held Steele's face in his hands and looked into her eyes as he asked in a gentle voice, "Steele, what's wrong? Although you've always been open-minded about this, I know that you're not willing to let me be with other women. I'm not willing to touch Betty and Carol because of you. But why are you now taking the initiative to ask me to touch them? Something must have happened, tell me." Steele lowered her eyes like she was avoiding Sue-Yi's gaze. After a while, there was a blush that appeared on her face. Sue-Yi was filled with curiosity. He and Steele had known each other for 7 years and had been married for 6 years. They could be considered an old couple, so what was there for her to blush about in front of him? When he was about to ask, he heard a soft sound that was like a mosquito coming from Steele's mouth. "Because I haven't been able to satisfy you for a long time. I'm pregnant again." "Huh?" Sue stared at Steele in a daze. It took him half a minute to react. You're pregnant?" Steele nodded slowly. "Yes, I noticed something was wrong last month, so I went for a checkup. I'm indeed pregnant. If we calculate the time, today should be the 3rd month." Sue silently calculated in his heart. "That means, if there are no accidents, we'll have a second child at the end of this year or the beginning of next year?" "Yes." Sue was dazed for a moment, and then he felt a burst of ecstasy in his heart. After Steele gave birth to Freya, There had been no signs of pregnancy in the past 5 years. This made Sue-E think that Steele couldn't have a second child. But now that Steele had suddenly given him such a surprise, he didn't know how to react for a moment. After a moment of daze, Sue-E couldn't hold back the ecstasy in his heart and couldn't help but laugh wildly. Sue-Ye's wild laughter spread far and wide, attracting the attention of everyone on the set. Everyone looked at Sue-E, who couldn't stop laughing, and Steele, who was blushing and looking a little embarrassed. They were all confused. "Mr. President, did something good happen to him?" Chapter 761. Ding-ling-ling. The door of the tavern was suddenly pushed open. The hot air that rushed in collided with the cool breeze that was rotating inside the tavern, causing the wind chimes hanging on the door beam to let out a crisp ringing sound. Sitting near the door, there were several large men drinking cold ale that were caught in the heat. They instantly broke out in sweat and couldn't help cursing out. "Hey, I say, old John, you should quickly buy a magic air conditioner. Just relying on these 2 old first-generation magic fans, how can you cool this place down?" "That's right, look, we're about to die from the heat just sitting here. Let me tell you, if you're not willing to spend the money to buy a magic fan, us old customers won't be able to take it and run away. That's right, there's a new tavern that opened in town. They just opened and there are 3 magic air conditioners inside. I went in the day before yesterday and it was really cool. Sitting inside and drinking wine was simply enjoyable. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm used to coming here and there are many old customers here, I wouldn't have come today." Hearing the complaints of his regular customers, old John revealed a simple smile. He nodded as he replied, all right, I'll buy one tomorrow and guarantee that you'll all be comfortable here. We're all old customers, so of course I'll satisfy whatever you want." "That's right, old John, speaking of buying a magic air conditioner, you should buy a Shinfei brand," a large man said. A trace of hesitation appeared on old John's face. "Shinfei brand? The Shinfei brand magic air conditioner is more expensive than the other brands. Che, you don't understand this. Don't look at how the Shinfei brand magic air conditioner is more expensive than the other brands, but it's easier to use. Let me tell you, 2 of my neighbors bought magic air conditioners last year. One of them bought the Shinfei brand and the other one bought— what is it called? It seems to be the Thorns brand. Anyway, it's just a magic air conditioner of a different brand. Then guess what? The one who bought the Shinfei brand was still using it yesterday. The one who bought the Thorns brand magic air conditioner, it broke before the summer of last year." There was a burst of laughter in the tavern, taking pleasure in the misfortune of others. "Ha ha, he deserves it. Who told him to be greedy and buy a random brand of magic air conditioner? If you want to buy household magic machines, of course you should choose the Shinfei brand. Well, old John, don't hesitate. Hurry up and buy it before it gets hottest. Otherwise, you won't be able to get it even if you want to. By the way, I read in the newspaper that New Flyer is running an energy-saving promotion recently. As long as you replace your old Shinfei brand household magic machines, you can enjoy the discount. Old John, if you take these 2 magic fans, you should be able to enjoy a bit of a discount." "Really?" Old Johann looked at the 2 magic fans that were blowing cool air, and his heart was a bit unwilling. He had already bought these 2 Shinfei brand magic fans for 3 years, and they had been with him the entire time. There had never been a problem with them, so he was already used to their existence. But thinking about how the magic air conditioner would make the tavern more comfortable, he could only reluctantly part with them. He had been running this tavern for all these years, and although his business was good because he treated his customers with sincerity, he had never made a fortune. Otherwise, he could have directly bought 2 more magic air conditioners. While thinking about the cost of buying the magic air conditioner and making plans in his heart, old John walked over to the table where the customers who had just come in were sitting. "Customers, what do you need?" Old John's eyes fell onto these people. With his years of experience running a tavern, he could easily tell that these customers weren't normal citizens. Although they had just come in, there wasn't a single speck of dust on their bodies or their feet. They were very clean from head to toe, so it could be seen that they had a very good means of transportation. This was a small town that wasn't far from the border between the Drake Duchy and the Fawk Kingdom. These customers clearly weren't from the Drake Duchy, so they should be from the Fawk Kingdom. The Fawk Kingdom didn't have magic sedans like the Drake Duchy, so their means of transportation should be the traditional horse carriage that didn't have many decorations, but it was clearly made of excellent materials. Just bring in a few dishes. A normal-looking young man who was around 30 years old waved his hand and casually said this. If there's any good wine, bring in a bit. All right, please wait a bit. Old John went to the kitchen first before taking out 2 bottles of chilled low-alcohol malt wine from the magic freezer behind the counter, as well as a few cups. Their eyes fell onto the malt wine bottles, and they found that there was an ice-cold aura around the bottles. There was even a thin layer of frost that made them all reveal looks of surprise. Hey, boss, I never thought that a small store like yours would actually have an ice cellar? A middle-aged customer who was around 40 years old couldn't help giving a sigh of praise. Without waiting for Old John's reply, the man who had urged Old John to buy the magic air conditioner turned around and gave a laugh. I say, where did you come from? You don't even know about the magic freezer? Do we still need an ice cellar these days? You're simply too outdated. Don't you think so? The tavern filled with laughter filled with ridicule again. The expression of the young man who had ordered the dishes changed. When he was about to speak, he was stopped by the middle-aged customer who had asked the question. Looking at the malt wine that was still releasing a chill, the middle-aged customer asked Old John, Boss, can you explain what this magic freezer is for? Also, what are the magic fans and magic air conditioners that you mentioned just now? Ha ha, you really are a country bumpkin from who knows where, you don't know anything. Loki, shut up and drink your wine. Without waiting for the guests to get angry, John Sr. turned his head and scolded the burly man fiercely, then turned around and put on a smile again. This customer, it's very troublesome to explain these things. You can see that there are quite a few customers here, and I'm quite busy. The middle-aged customer revealed a faint smile and reached into his chest. When he took it out again, he had already taken out 2 gold coins and slowly placed them on the table. Old John's eyes lit up. Seeing the middle-aged customer nod, he swept his right hand across the table with a smile and the 2 gold coins disappeared without a trace. Then he pulled a chair over and sat down at the table. With a soft cough he said, This magic freezer, it can be used to store things. As for the magic fan, there are 2 of them here. Old John spoke while the middle-aged customer asked questions. After talking for half an hour, Old John finally finished explaining the uses of these household magic machines. In the beginning, the middle-aged customer was interested in the household magic machines themselves, but as he asked, his questions began to focus on the new flyer. Knowing that all the household magic machines on the market were developed by a company like the New Flyer, the middle-aged customer and his companions were all very surprised. Based on this Frestec Chamber of Commerce really is amazing. The middle-aged customer couldn't help praising. It's just a company, but it can develop all these novel products. It can even be said that this Chamber of Commerce alone has propped up a whole new industry. This is really too amazing. Of course, if the New Flyer isn't incredible, there wouldn't be any incredible company on the continent. The man named Rocky cut in again. Looking at his proud appearance, it was like praising the New Flyer was the same as praising him. If it wasn't for the New Flyer, how could our Drake Duchy become this good? How could I have found such a good job? As Loki spoke, he raised the glass in his hand and made a toast to the southwest. Come, cheers! To the incredible New Flyer. Thank you for giving me this brand new life. Oh! What was surprising was that several of the big men around Loki who were drinking with him also raised their glasses and shouted loudly. Seeing this scene, the middle-aged customer's companions all opened their eyes wide in shock. The middle-aged customer was still calm, but he was clearly very surprised. Looking at Rocky and the others, he couldn't help shaking his head with a smile. Ah, this really is exaggerated. Hey, Boss John, can you tell me what kind of job the new flyer has brought to this Mr. Rocky? It actually made him this grateful to the new flyer? Old John looked at Rocky and the others who were clearly drunk and shook his head with emotion. He said with a sigh, of course he has to thank the new flyer. 3 years ago, he was still a pitiful guy who couldn't even feed his own son. Now, he was able to earn 10 or even 20 gold coins a month. In addition, his wife could earn 10 gold coins a month. The life of the family was completely different from before. All of this was brought to him by the new flyer, so don't you think he should thank the new flyer? He can earn 10 to 20 gold coins a month? The middle-aged customer couldn't hide his shock this time. He should only be a normal commoner, right? What kind of job can make him this much money? Hey, it's not a special job. He's just a skilled worker in a joint venture factory in the nearby New Flyer. The skilled workers in that factory earn at least 10 gold coins a month, and his skills are the best among them, so he naturally earns the most, Old John replied. Skilled worker? The middle-aged customer's expression changed. He picked up the bottle of malt wine that was no longer cold due to the heat wave in the tavern, walked to Rocky's side, and filled his empty cup. Rocky looked at him in surprise, burped, and asked, "What are you doing?" The middle-aged customer smiled slightly. "Hello, can I have a chat with you?" Chapter 762. Half an hour later, a few guests who had come from afar walked out of the tavern. The young man in his 30s who was in charge of ordering looked back at Loki and the others who were dead drunk in the tavern. He frowned slightly and moved closer to the middle-aged guest walking at the front. He said in a low voice, "Lord Marquis, it's a waste of time to talk to these ignorant commoners. I think we should go directly to Duke Drake and ask him what you're concerned about. It should be much easier than now." The middle-aged customer turned his head and glanced at him. He smiled slightly. "Ignorant? My dear Seymour, have you forgotten that you were just mocked for being a country bumpkin?" Seymour's expression froze, and he said angrily, "Bah! A bunch of lowly people, how dare they call us country bumpkins? If this was our Mallow Empire, I would immediately make them pay the price for what they said." The middle-aged guest shook his head and sighed. "Seymour, your father asked you to come with me to increase your knowledge and temper your temperament. If you still maintain this attitude, then I can only send someone to send you back immediately." Seymour was stunned. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to refute, but he still lowered his head dejectedly. "Yes, Lord Marquis. You're right. I know my mistake." The middle-aged guest looked back at the tavern they had just walked out of. He narrowed his eyes and let out a sigh full of emotion. They are indeed commoners, but if we're talking about being ignorant, at least in the aspect of magic machines, we are far inferior to them. If we didn't happen to know about magic machines in the Fok Kingdom, I'm afraid we would still be ignorant. The more I know about these things, the more amazed I am. Why hasn't anyone thought of such amazing magic tools before? It's not that there hasn't been. In fact, many magicians have researched magic tools before, but those magicians mainly researched them to use as weapons. This new flyer, on the other hand, mainly researched them for people's daily lives, Seymour said. That's why this new flyer is so amazing, the middle-aged guest praised. Other magicians didn't think of it, but this new flyer did. That was why the new flyer was so successful, becoming the most profitable and influential chamber of commerce in the surrounding small countries. And from what Loki had just said, all the products of this new flyer seemed to come from the ideas of their president himself. If that's really the case, then their president, Sue, is truly an outstanding person. Seymour glanced at the middle-aged guest in surprise. He knew very well that although Sir Marquis had always been approachable, and was very gentle and amiable to the commoners, he was actually very arrogant and rarely praised others. But now, he actually gave such a high evaluation to the new flyer's president, whom he had never even met before, which was very rare. After some thought, Seymour said, "I don't think this new flyer is that powerful. In the past few years, they had been so successful in the surrounding small countries because there were no other powerful magicians who cared about magic machines, so they were able to dominate. But once other powerful magicians noticed, I think they would have nothing to do with it." "Idiot!" The middle-aged guest unceremoniously reprimanded Seymour. "Could it be that you still haven't noticed from what you've seen in the past few days? How much profit does this new flyer's magic machines contain? In front of such huge profits, which magician would remain indifferent? And until now, apart from the new flyer, there hasn't been any other magic machine merchant that can be compared to them. Do you think it's that simple? Humph, how could these few small countries have any powerful magicians? If the truly powerful magicians of our Mala Empire were willing to research these things, they would definitely be able to easily defeat this new flyer." Seymour was still somewhat unconvinced. The middle-aged guest glanced at him and didn't continue to reprimand him. Although Seymour was already 33 years old, because he had always been under the protection of his mother, his mind wasn't mature enough. It wasn't strange that some young people didn't want to admit defeat. Bringing him out this time could be considered a form of training for him. As for what Seymour had said about easily defeating the new flyer, Dalen Marquis of Southgard, who had collected countless rumors about the new flyer over the past few days, definitely didn't think so. Perhaps the new flyer's current influence was limited to these small countries in the southwest corner of the continent, so it couldn't be compared to the super first-rate merchant guilds on the continent like the Kanla Empire's Chimera Chamber of Commerce and the Mala Empire's Sunset Chamber of Commerce. However, a merchant guild that could grow from nothing to such a scale in less than 7 years definitely couldn't be underestimated. Moreover, the new flyer was different from any other traditional merchant guild in the signs. It actually dealt in magic tools that were previously thought to be exclusive to magicians. Moreover, the new flyer was very creative in turning these magic tools into something that normal people could easily use. It was simply turning the noble and mysterious magic that normal people couldn't remove into a normal thing. Just based on this, it already went against the common concept of all magicians on the continent. After personally experiencing the convenience of the magic refrigerator and magic fan in the small tavern, the Marquis of Southgard had to admit that the new flyer had already perfected these magic tools. The 2 household magic machines that the tavern owner mentioned not only had outstanding functions, they were also very simple to use. Normal people didn't understand magic at all, but they didn't need any understanding of magic to operate these 2 household magic machines. They just needed to know how to operate them and press the appropriate buttons to operate them. Out of curiosity, the Marquis of Southgard tried to operate the magic fan according to the tavern owner's instructions. He found that it was very simple and even a child could easily control it. It had to be said, for the new flyer to be able to display this kind of mysterious magic in such a simple manner, it really was a very incredible thing. "Sir Marquis, where do we go next?" The driver who had already driven the horse carriage over asked the Marquis of Southgard this question. The Marquis of Southgard thought for a bit before pointing out of town. "Let's go to the new flyer's joint venture factory outside town to take a look." Seymour on the side knit his brows. He wanted to say that they shouldn't waste time, but he didn't dare say it in the end. When the 2 were about to get into the horse carriage, there was a strange roar that came from behind them. The two of them turned around in surprise and saw a completely black monster that was reflecting the summer sun. It was shining like a monster as it flew over from the distance. In the blink of an eye, this monster that seemed to be made of steel arrived beside the two of them like a whirlwind. Then, with a strong gust of wind, it passed by the two of them and disappeared on the other side of the road in the blink of an eye. Damn! Viscount Landuri's kid is racing in town again. How many times has it been? Damn, that kid almost hit someone last time and he dares to do this again. Let's see if I don't report him when the princess comes next time. Isn't it just buying a new magic sedan? What is he being so arrogant for? When father becomes rich, I'll buy one and drive it under him every day. Let's see if he still dares to be arrogant. There were sounds of cursing behind them. It was a group of customers who came out of the tavern and saw the monster flying off. The Marquis of Southgard had a thought as he turned to ask, "This is a magic car?" Yes, this is a magic car. The people in the tavern had a deep impression of Marquis Southgate, who had been asking questions in the tavern, so they immediately replied when they heard this. Then they felt that something was wrong and added, No, this is called a magic sedan. Although it is a type of magic car, there are many kinds of magic cars. Other than the magic sedan, there are also transport magic cars and passenger magic cars. Oh! The Marquis of Southgard gave a slight nod. He wanted to ask more, but he felt that this wasn't a good time to ask, so he gave up on this idea. After the customers left, the Marquis of Southgard looked down and found that there was quite a bit of dust on him from the magic sedan that had just passed. He couldn't help knitting his brows. That kid Seymour has always been a bit of a clean freak. He might not be satisfied this time. The Marquis of Southgard turned to look at Seymour, but he didn't hear any complaints. Rather, he just stared in the direction that the magic sedan had just left in, like he was in a daze. Could it be that he was frightened? The Marquis of Southgard turned in front of Seymour with a bit of worry. Seeing the stunned Seymour, he raised his hand and waved it in front of him. "Hey, Seymour, are you all right?" Seymour's gaze gradually recovered and his eyes slowly returned to normal. I'm fine. Then you." The Marquis of Southgard looked at him with a confused look. Seymour suddenly revealed an excited look. He pointed in the direction that the magic sedan had disappeared in and loudly shouted, "Uncle Dalen, did you see that? Did you see that?" The Marquis of Southgard was even more surprised. This kid was this shocked? He actually forgot what his father told him before leaving and changed the way he called him. Saw what? Saw that. That magic sedan? Right, did you see that magic sedan? It's simply too cool. Too cool. I never thought that there would be such a fast horse in this world. No, it's not a horse carriage, it's a car. I never thought that a car could run this fast. I don't care, Uncle Dalen, I have to get one for myself. Seeing the clearly excited Seymour, the Marquis of Southgard felt a headache coming on. This fellow had been spoiled by his mother since he was young, so once he became willful, he didn't care about anything else. If this was a normal situation, the Marquis of Southgard could reprimand him, but after hearing Seymour's request, the Marquis of Southgard thought of a good idea. All right. The Marquis of Southgard patted Seymour's shoulder with a smile and said with a kind look, "Since you want it, it's very simple, we'll buy one." Chapter 763. Strictly speaking, the Drake Duchy was a duchy, so there was no such thing as a capital. But as the location of the Duke Manor, Filio's city was naturally the political and economic center of the Drake Duchy. The Drake Duchy wasn't that big, so naturally Filio's city wasn't that big before. Not to mention comparing it to the Lampari Kingdom's capital, Anvilmar City, it was even smaller than the previous Banta city. It could be considered a small city that could be seen all over the signs. So when the Marquis of Southgard and Seymour saw the walls of Filio's city in the distance, They couldn't help revealing disappointed looks. On the way, they had seen many novel things in the Drake Duchy, which could be considered an eye-opener for them. It also made them look forward to seeing the most developed city in the Drake Duchy, Philio's city, but they never thought that it would be like this after seeing it with their own eyes. It really made them disappointed. However, the magic sedan carrying the two of them didn't head to the city walls in the distance, rather it went around in a circle, as if it was planning on going around the city. Seymour was surprised. He asked the driver they hired when they hired the magic sedan, "Hey, where are you taking us?" The driver looked at him in the rearview mirror and replied with a smile, "This customer, didn't you come here to buy a magic sedan? It's not for sale in the old city. The new Flyers special store is in the new city, so I'm taking you there now." New city? Seymour muttered before looking at the Marquis of Southgard. The Marquis of Southgard gave a slight nod, signaling for him to wait and see. Seymour didn't ask anything else and leaned back in his seat. Feeling the comfortable softness of the back seat, Seymour couldn't help letting out a satisfied moan. If it was said that when he saw the magic sedan in the small town on the border, he was completely moved by the shocking speed of the magic sedan. Now that he hired this magic sedan and rode it all the way here, his heart was filled with praise for the magic sedan. Not to mention that it was countless times faster than a traditional horse carriage, just based on the comfort of sitting in it. The magic sedan had already surpassed all the traditional horse carriages. When he was in the Mala Empire, he had sat in the luxurious horse carriage of Duke Baidi's family. Although that horse carriage was made of expensive materials and had the softest carpet, in terms of comfort, it couldn't compare to sitting in this magic sedan. Of course, the reason why this magic sedan could make him feel as comfortable as sitting on his own sofa was mostly because of the smooth road they were driving on. This was Seymour's first time seeing such a smooth road. When the magic sedan drove on it, he didn't feel any bumps at all. It was completely different from riding on the bumpy gravel roads of the Malar Empire. Seymour and Marquis of Southgard even fell asleep for a while due to the comfort. After personally experiencing such a journey, Seymour made up his mind. Of course he had to buy a magic sedan, but at the same time, he had to build several roads in the Empire that were the same as this one. Otherwise, even if it was the magic sedan, it wouldn't be that comfortable driving on those gravel roads. The magic sedan with the two of them maintained a speed of around 50 kilometers an hour, quickly passing by the old city that was surrounded by the city walls on the road outside Philio's city. Marquis of Southgard and Seymour looked out the window, and they couldn't help taking a deep breath. What appeared in front of the two of them was a group of buildings that they couldn't see the end of. These buildings had the traditional low wooden houses on signs, but most of them were tall brick buildings that were at least 10 meters tall. In the most conspicuous place in the distance there were 3 buildings that soared into the sky that were at least several dozen meters tall, which looked very magnificent. In the middle of these buildings, there was a series of equally straight, spacious, and flat roads crisscrossing each other, dividing this huge new city into neat areas. On both sides of the road, there were tall iron pillars that were set apart, and there was a beautiful magic lamp hanging at the top of each pillar. They had seen these magic lamps before. They should have come from the new flyer. Seymour curiously asked the driver in front and learned that these were the so-called street lamps. When the light dimmed at night, they would light up the entire road. Hearing the driver's explanation, the Marquis of Southgard and Seymour couldn't help praising them in their hearts. Not mentioning anything else in Philio's city, just based on these street lamps, it already surpassed all the other cities on the continent. Ha ha, you haven't seen enough. Who would have thought that after the driver heard their praises, he would break out in laughter and shake his head to deny their thoughts. Let me tell you, these street lamps were first developed in the Lampari Kingdom's Banta city before other cities followed suit. Our Philio's city is already considered quite late in building these things. Banta city was the first to use these street lamps. Is it because of the new flyer? Seymour kept asking. They had heard many rumors about the new flyer on the way, so they were very clear on how the new flyer had started in the Lampari Kingdom's Banta City. This thing was proposed by the new flyer's chairman Su, so Banta City was the first to implement it. Then everyone felt that this thing was very easy to use, so they all learned it. It seems like this new flyer has changed the appearance of many cities with just these simple magic lamps and street lamp. The Marquis of Southgard gave an emotional sigh before looking at the 3 tall buildings in the distance and asking, "Then what is with these 3 tall buildings? Could it be that they were also built by the new flyer? The Drake Duchy definitely couldn't build such tall buildings before, right? Then these 3 buildings? No, the new flyer only makes magic machines. These 3 buildings weren't built by them, they were built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. But it's not wrong to say that it's related to the new flyer since the most important materials for these 3 buildings, such as the cement and the steel bars, as well as the large amount of construction magic machines, were all provided by the new flyer. Cement? Steel bars? Construction magic machines? This was the Marquis of Southgard and Seymour's first time hearing these words, so they couldn't help being surprised. The Marquis of Southgard looked at the 3 buildings and couldn't help being shocked. This new flyer really was worth exploring. Whenever he thought that he had a good understanding of the new flyer, there would always be something new that would make him realize his mistake. The Marquis of Southgard suddenly felt that his decision to investigate the Drake Duchy after seeing the new magic machines in the Fok Kingdom couldn't be more correct. If he could understand the background of the new flyer, this trip would be very fruitful. Alright, we're here. The magic sedan suddenly slowed down before slowing down and finally stopping. The Marquis of Southgard and Seymour looked out of the car and found that they were in front of a large building. Through the window, they could see that there was a large sign on the door of the building, which had the words Shinfei Product Service Center written on it. Hey, we're here to buy magic sedans, what are we doing here? Seymour couldn't help asking. That's right, this is the place that sells magic sedans. The driver opened the door for the 2 of them with a smile. The Marquis of Southgard and Seymour got out and there were 2 more magic sedans that stopped beside them. The followers that the Marquis of Southgard had brought with him this time came out of the magic sedan. They had taken 2 traditional horse carriages to come from the Fok Kingdom, but because they had seen the magic sedans in a small town on the border and had heard that there was a company that specialized in renting magic sedans, they had left their horse carriages in the town and rented 3 magic sedans, as well as hired drivers to come here. It had to be said, this decision not only made their trip much more comfortable, it also saved them quite a bit of time. That border town was over 100 kilometers away from Filio's city, so if they took a horse carriage, it would take at least half a day to get there. But after changing to the magic sedans, it only took 2 hours. The Marquis of Southgard looked around the giant building that took over 10,000 square meters before giving a nod. Let's go in and take a look. The group came to the door, and when the transparent glass door opened, there was a young and beautiful girl who came forward. Everyone's eyes fell onto this young miss, and they were stunned. This is a beast man? Seymour looked at the 2 furry rabbit ears sticking out of the young miss' head in surprise. He couldn't help reaching out to touch them to see if they were real, but the Marquis of Southgard slapped his hand down. Pay attention to your actions, Seymour. The Marquis of Southgard reprimanded him before revealing an apologetic smile to the young miss. I'm very sorry, this beautiful beastman young miss, I've frightened you. The beastman young miss had indeed been a bit frightened by Seymour's actions, but now that she saw this noble-looking middle-aged man who wasn't a normal person apologizing to her in a sincere tone, she immediately forgot about this matter. She quickly waved her hand and said, It's fine, it's fine. Guests, may I ask if there's anything I can help you with? Chapter 764. Before the Marquis of Southgard could reply, Seymour looked around and found several magic sedans in the corner of the hall. He immediately gave a cheer and charged over. The Marquis of Southgard helplessly shook his head and had his 2 followers follow him. He said to the Beastmen girl with a faint smile, "This beautiful miss, I want to ask a question about your new flyer's magic cars. Can you answer that for me?" "Of course, this way please." The Beastmen girl led the Marquis of Southgard and his 3 followers to the resting area in the center of the hall. Then she poured a cup of tea for them before sitting down in front of the Marquis of Southgard. She had a sweet smile on her face as she asked, "This guest, what kind of question do you need to ask?" The Marquis of Southgard revealed a faint smile. He looked at the Beastmen girl and slowly asked, "Compared to the magic car question, I'm more curious about another question. This miss, may I know your name?" You can just call me Lena." Young Miss Lena, based on your appearance, you should be a member of the rabbit clan of the Beastmen race. I'm very curious, why are you working for a human company like New Flyer?" The smile on Lena's face didn't change at all, like she already knew this question. She asked back, "This guest, you're not someone from the Drake Duchy, right? In fact, you're not even from any of these countries." "How can you tell?" "Because as long as you're from the surrounding countries, everyone knows that our New Flyer has Beastmen employees, so it's not strange at all." "It's like this?" The Marquis of Southgard laughed. "You're right. I'm not from any of the surrounding countries. I'm from the distant Mala Empire." "Mala Empire?" Lena's eyes popped out in surprise. She looked over the Marquis of Southgard for a while before calming down. "Then for you to come all the way from the Mala Empire, could it be that you're here to buy a magic sedan?" The Marquis of Southgard noticed that Lena's eyes were looking at Seymour, who was looking at the magic sedan in the distance, so he shook his head with a smile. "No, I'm not here to buy a magic sedan. Actually, I'm very interested in many of your New Flyer's products. If it's possible, can you give me a comprehensive introduction of all the products of your company?" "All of them?" Lena felt a little strange. Lena of Southgard was a bit surprised. Are you interested in them all?" "Yes." Marquis Southgate nodded with a smile. "And if it's possible, I might buy some of each product and bring it back." Lena was a little confused. If it was someone else, she would definitely think that they were joking. The New Flyer was currently producing over 100 products, and even if one bought one of each product, it would cost at least several tens of thousands of gold coins. This didn't include the large transport magic cars or the magic boats that were ridiculously expensive. But this middle-aged man with a warm smile in front of her made Lena feel that he definitely wasn't joking. Lena even dared to confirm that he really was planning on buying a bit of each product. "What? Is there a problem?" Seeing that Lena didn't speak for a while, the Marquis of Southgard asked with a smile. No problem, no problem. But this customer, which product line do you want to start with?" "Our company is currently divided into 5 product lines, which are household magic machines, construction magic machines, agricultural magic machines, production magic machines, and common raw materials. Which one do you care about the most?" "Agricultural magic machines?" Hearing this, the Marquis of Southgard's expression changed. "Let's introduce this part first." "All right. Agricultural magic machines. It mainly refers to the magic machines that our company produces for farming and reclamation. Other than this, it also includes agricultural fertilizers, herbicides, and other raw materials. Because they are also considered farming, they are also included. Let's start with the agricultural magic machines. First is the Magic Harvester. This magic machine can help farmers harvest faster." The Marquis of Southgard listened to Lena's explanation with a focused look, not missing a single word. From time to time, he would slightly knit his brows in thought and ask a few questions. After half an hour, Lena finally finished introducing the basic parts of the agricultural magic machines. The Marquis of Southgard was silent for a bit after hearing this before asking, "This means that as long as you use the agricultural magic machines of your company, you can greatly increase your harvest?" "Yes." Lena gave a strong nod before replying with a proud look. "Our company's agricultural magic machines have already been promoted in the surrounding countries, helping the surrounding countries greatly increase their harvest. Right now, there isn't a single country that can live without our company's agricultural magic machines." The Marquis of Southgard slowly nodded. If Lena's introduction to the agricultural magic machines was true, he believed that they could indeed achieve this effect. "All right, there's no need to introduce the household magic machines for now. Tell me what the construction magic machines are." Construction magic machines have a rather narrow range of applications. They are mainly used in various projects, like the magic concrete mixer, the magic oscillator, the magic drill, and etc. Other than that, our company has developed a series of mining magic machines for mining, which can greatly increase the efficiency of mining. As for the construction magic machines, even if Lena was from the New Flyer, she didn't know that much. The Marquis of Southgard also didn't care about this, so naturally he didn't know that much. So Lena only gave a general idea, and he also heard the general idea. When he was halfway through, Seymour suddenly ran over and cut off their conversation. "Ho! Uncle Dalen, I've decided. I want to buy 2 magic sedans to bring back. One is black and the other is white." Seeing the excited Seymour, the Marquis of Southgard casually waved his hand. "All right, buy it if you like it. But it'll be a bit troublesome to bring it back to the Mala Empire, since none of us know how to drive." "That's right." Seymour was discouraged, but then he waved his fist again. "It doesn't matter. You can learn if you don't know. I saw it on the way. It isn't hard to drive this magic sedan at all. I think I can learn it in just a day or 2. Lena on the side stood up in surprise. "This customer, you mustn't drive without a license, it's very dangerous. Recently there have been more and more accidents caused by magic sedans, so whether it is our company or the surrounding countries, they are all paying attention to this and have begun strictly managing it." Seymour rolled his eyes. "That's a matter between your company and the surrounding countries. How is it related to me? I'll bring it back to the Mala Empire. Could it be that you'll care?" Lena's expression froze. She gritted her teeth and gathered her courage to say, But if you insist on driving without a license, according to the company's rules, we won't sell the magic sedans to you." "Huh?" Seymour looked at Lena in disbelief. "What kind of joke is this? I want to buy your things because I think highly of you, but you actually dare not sell it to me? Do you believe that I won't smash this place?" The Marquis of Southgard had been immersed in the introduction of the various magic machines to Lena, so he didn't care about the conversation between Seymour and Lena. When he suddenly heard Seymour's angry roar, he came back to his senses. He knit his brows, and when he wanted to say something, there was a cold laugh that came from the door. Who is this bold, actually daring to smash the New Flyer store? "It's your master, how?" Seymour turned with a face filled with rage. As soon as he said this, his voice suddenly stopped like someone had grabbed his neck. The Marquis of Southgard also turned in surprise and saw a group of people coming in, with a young human girl leading them. Although this human girl had a cold look on her face, she was still incomparably beautiful. She was like a blooming rose, shining in all directions and making it hard for people to look straight at her. The anger on her face didn't affect her beauty at all. It was just like reminding people that this beautiful rose had thorns, so people couldn't easily offend her. This kind of cold and beautiful aura combined with her incomparably exquisite and almost perfect face, each move she made was filled with a shocking charm. It was no wonder Seymour was stunned for a while. The beautiful young girl was wearing leather shoes as she quickly walked across the hall, bringing her in front of Seymour after a while. She coldly looked at Seymour and gave a snort. She then looked at the Marquis of Southgard and said in a cold voice, "This, mister, you should be a noble, so how could you bring out such a rude and uneducated junior?" Although Seymour was stunned by her beauty, he was furious when he heard her scolding him for being rude and uneducated. He pointed at her and was about to scold her. However, the Marquis of Southgard narrowed his eyes and glanced at him. Seymour instantly swallowed all the words that were in his throat and obediently retreated to the side. He only stared at the young girl with a fierce and greedy gaze. He was indeed rude just now. "I apologize to Miss Lena on his behalf." The Marquis of Southgard maintained his calm tone and spoke slowly. "But this beautiful lady, I don't have any objections if you accuse him of being rude, but please forgive me for not being able to accept that he is uneducated." The young girl frowned slightly. "What? You're an elder in his family? With his behavior, am I wrong to say that he is uneducated?" Seymour glared and wanted to retort, but he was stopped by the Marquis of Southgard's glare. "His parents and I are close friends. I have already apologized on his behalf, so please take back what you said." The Marquis of Southgard looked at the young girl sincerely. The young girl didn't seem to expect the Marquis of Southgard to have such an attitude. She looked at the Marquis of Southgard and then at Seymour. She pondered for a moment and nodded. "Okay, I can take back what I said, but he must apologize to Lena." Lena was shocked and quickly waved her hand. "No, no, no, I'm fine. You don't have to apologize to me. Your Highness, I'm fine. You don't have to do this for me, Your Highness?" The Marquis of Southgard's expression changed when he heard Linda address the young girl. He gave Seymour a look and said in a deep voice, "Seymour, apologize to Miss Lena for your rudeness. This is also for your parents' reputation. You can't refuse." Seymour looked at the Marquis of Southgard and then at Lena. His face turned red. After a while, he angrily said, "I will never apologize to a lowly orc." After saying that, he strode out of the door. The Marquis of Southgard and the young girl didn't say anything, so their attendants naturally didn't stop him. Seeing him disappear, the Marquis of Southgard signaled his two attendants to follow him. He then turned to the young girl. After a moment of silence, he said, "If I'm not wrong, you should be Duke Derek's daughter, Princess Caroline, right?" Chapter 765. Princess Caroline Wants to Come? Steele looked at the pink private letter in Su-Yi's hand and looked up at Su-Yi with a ghost of a smile on her face. "Did she specially come to see you?" Su-Yi rolled his eyes at her in annoyance. How could she have free time? "She came this time for something and said that she would bring me two very special guests." "Very special guests?" Steele slightly knit her brows. "What kind of guests need her to personally bring them here? It wasn't mentioned in the letter, so I don't know why she's keeping me in suspense." Su-Yi shook the letter in his hand and was a bit confused. Although Princess Caroline often sent him private letters, most of them were asking about the cooperation between the Drake Duchy and the New Flyer. This was the first time she said that she would come to the Principality of Constantine to see him. If it was said that Princess Caroline wanted to seduce him before, then ever since he married Steele and had a child, as well as the cooperation between the Drake Duchy and the New Flyer stabilizing, she had become much more restrained. She would only tease Su-Yi verbally. She suddenly came this time and said that she would bring him two special guests, which really surprised Su-Yi. "I think it's just an excuse to come see you," Steele said with a soft smile. "You really know how to think." Su-Yi looked at Steele and threw the letter to the side. His eyes fell onto Steele's stomach and he said in a concerned voice, "I think that you're pregnant, which is why you're thinking this way. Listen to me, Steele, you should rest during this time and not participate in work too much." "That won't do." Steele shook her head. "Right now is an important time for our new Moon Chamber of Commerce to promote the illusion film, so I have to personally participate in directing it. Creating a new entertainment model through the illusion film and the magic illusion projector, isn't this what you always wanted? But I never thought that you would be pregnant. So what? When I was pregnant with Freya, I was still working. It didn't affect me much. Seeing Steele's resolute attitude, Sui thought about it and stopped trying to persuade her. He only reminded Steele to take care of her body and not be too tired. Steele naturally agreed. She said that since it was her second pregnancy, she had enough experience to deal with it. Speaking of Freya, I think she asked Liz and Linda to take her to the signal tower to play. Aren't you going to inspect the signal tower later? Bring her back tonight, Steele said. Sui nodded and chatted with Steele about the illusion film for a while before leaving the manor. As soon as they walked out of the manor and looked into the distance, they could see that there were already 7 towering iron towers in the distance. These were the new signal towers that New Flyer had recently built. They were specifically used to transmit magic waves. Because Akali's research team had made a breakthrough in the magic resonance technology, the transmission range of the signal towers had increased from 5,000 meters to 7,000 meters. Therefore, the 7 signal towers were all about 6,000 meters away from each other. They were arranged so that the magic waves could be transmitted to any place in the New Flight Commerce main base through the 7 signal towers. It was a perfect coverage. Sui took out the magic communicator from his pocket and pressed a button. Immediately, Akali's tired but excited voice came from the communicator. "Hey, Mr. President, do you have any instructions?" Sui laughed and said, "No instructions. I just want to see how your work is going. Where are you now? By the way, have you seen Freya?" Before Akali replied, a child's voice came from the other side of the magic communicator. "Dad, I'm with Auntie Akali and the others. Come quickly. Auntie Akali won't let me play on the top of the tower." Sui couldn't help but roll his eyes. "Freya, listen to Auntie Akali and don't interfere with their work. I'm coming." "Okay, I'll be waiting for you. Freya is a good girl. Don't worry. Mr. President, please come over. We're doing maintenance work in the number 4 signal tower." "Okay." Sui raised his head and observed carefully. After confirming the location of the number 4 signal tower, he activated the magic power in his body. However, instead of teleporting to the number 4 signal tower directly, he flew up and slowly flew to the number 4 signal tower. Looking down from the sky, it was easy to see the current layout of the New Flight Commerce main base. Compared to when New Flyer first came here, this place had changed from a barren land to a completely different model. Currently, there were all kinds of buildings on this huge piece of land that was more than 10 square kilometers in size. Among them, the New Flyer's industrial area and the residential area were clearly separated. All kinds of factories in the industrial area occupied more than half of the land in the north, and the residential area occupied the rest of the land in the south. Looking at the newly built residential area in the south that was close to the abundant river, Sui confirmed his previous thoughts. As New Flyer continued to develop, this main base had to face further expansion. When he obtained this piece of land from Count Wine, Sui originally thought that it could support New Flyer's development for at least 10 years. However, only 4 years had passed, and this piece of land had been completely used. It could not meet the growing demand of New Flyer. In order to develop, it was imperative to expand the scope of this territory. However, when Sui proposed to the Congress of the Principality of Constantine that he needed to expand his territory, he was unexpectedly opposed by many members of Congress. As a result, this proposal was not passed in the Congress. Although the Speaker of the Congress, Anklo, privately told Sui that he could definitely propose to the Congress to lease new land and it would definitely be passed, this meeting still made Sui a little wary. Originally, he thought that with New Flyer's current strong influence in the Principality of Constantine, there would be no problem with him proposing any request. However, He didn't expect that this crucial request for expansion of New Flyer's territory would actually be opposed. The side that opposed this gave a very good reason, claiming that the Stantine Duchy had never granted land to nobles before. Sui suddenly raising this request went against the hundreds of years of tradition of the duchy. Sui originally scoffed at this reason because before this, the nobles of the Principality of Constantine didn't have a fixed amount of territory under their name. It was completely based on personal strength. If you wanted to seize it, you could seize it and it would be yours. Now that he needed new territory, it was laughable to say that the Principality of Constantine didn't have this tradition. But after the Congress explained it, he found out that the competition between the nobles of the Principality of Constantine wasn't truly recognized in name. The so-called official recognition of Duke Stantine was only a private action of Duke Stantine. Strictly speaking, it wasn't an official recognition of the Principality of Constantine. From this point, the members who opposed Suyi's proposal weren't wrong. But this kind of problem in name shouldn't have been a problem for Sui. With the New Flyer's powerful influence in the Principality of Constantine, even if there was a problem in name, they should be able to think of countless ways to solve it. But there were so many members who expressed their opposition in this Congress meeting. This made Sui a bit angry, but it also made him vigilant. Behind every member of the Congress stood a noble lord of the Principality of Constantine. The opposition of these members meant that the nobles were against Sui. However, this was what Sui didn't understand the most. Why did the nobles of the duchy oppose Suyi's proposal? Who gave them the courage to oppose Suyi's proposal? It had to be known that according to the Congress, the Principality of Constantine collected a total of 4,700,000 gold coins last year, of which 3 million came from the New Flyer. Just from this point, it could be seen that the New Flyer had a powerful influence on the Principality of Constantine. And if one considered the influence in reality, it was even more shocking. The New Flyer had opened 93 different factories in the Principality of Constantine, with over 200,000 employees. Of these employees, over 70,000 were recruited from the Principality of Constantine. In addition, the New Flyer cooperated with all the nobles of the duchy to establish various factories. Most of them were canned fruit factories and rubber processing factories, with over 100,000 workers employed in these factories. Therefore, the number of citizens of the Principality of Constantine who benefited directly from the New Flyer had already exceeded 180,000. In addition, because the New Flyer had spurred the magic industry in the Principality of Constantine, it had spurred the development of other industries. The number of citizens of the Principality of Constantine who benefited indirectly from the New Flyer had exceeded hundreds of thousands. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that there wasn't a single person in the Principality of Constantine who hadn't been affected by the New Flyer. And these effects were all positive. With the appearance of the New Flyer, almost all the citizens of the Principality of Constantine had official jobs. Their income was far greater than before, and their lives had been greatly improved. Moreover, the New Flyer had also paved roads and built street lamps everywhere in the Principality of Constantine, investing in infrastructure such as automatic water supply systems and so on. It had transformed the Principality of Constantine from a small duchy with poor transportation and a poor standard of living to a most advanced country in the surrounding countries. It had a very strong influence in the nearby countries. Therefore, it could be said that the Principality of Constantine was now the country of the New Flyer's Chamber of Commerce. Without the New Flyer, the Principality of Constantine was nothing. Therefore, Sui couldn't understand why these nobles were opposing him. Could it be that these fellows were courting death? Chapter 766. Suyi's anger towards the ignorant nobles in the Principality of Constantine immediately dissipated as soon as he landed. Freya immediately threw herself at Sue-e the moment she saw him. Sue-e hugged Freya and heard her giggling. His heart was filled with happiness, and he didn't care about what those nobles were thinking. "Daddy, let's go up the tower to play, okay?" Freya pointed at the top of the signal tower and asked expectantly. Okay, but we have to wait for Auntie Akali and the others to finish their work before we go up." "Oh, okay then. I'll wait for a while," Freya responded obediently. Sue-e kissed her on the cheek in appreciation. He looked around and saw Linda looking at them with a smile. He asked her, "Are you being held back by Freya today? Where's Liz? And where are the two little ones?" The two little ones Sue-e mentioned were the two sons that Liz and Linda had given birth to for him. Liz's son was named Sandy, and Linda's son was named Harvey. They were both relatively common names. Just like Freya, Sue-e followed the same principle when it came to naming them. He would let their mother name them in the style of the Signs continent. He would follow the style on Earth and wait until they were 10 years old before giving them another name based on his surname. Currently, the three of their names were just nicknames, for the sake of convenience. When Sue-e asked Liz and Linda to give their sons nicknames, the two of them were very touched because it showed Sue-e's full respect for them. Although Liz and Linda had long gotten rid of their identity as slaves, they still couldn't get rid of the shackles that this identity brought to them. In their hearts, they always felt that they couldn't be compared to steel. According to the tradition of the Signs, their sons could only be regarded as the bastard son of Sue-e. They were completely different from Freya. So when Sue-e gave them the right to name their children, and said that he would give Sandy and Harvey a name with his surname when they turned 10 years old, they were very happy. Now that she heard Sue-e ask about the two little fellows, Linda's face was filled with smiles as she replied, "The two little fellows are still sleeping, Linda is looking after them." Freya wanted to come out and play, but Mrs. Steele was too busy to leave, so I brought her out. When Freya heard this, she immediately pouted. "That's right, Daddy. Why do you think Mommy is always so busy? Every time I want her to play with me, she doesn't have time. Doesn't she like me?" Hearing this, Sue-e was shocked. He looked at Freya's little face full of dissatisfaction and changed his mind. He smiled and hugged her again. "How can Mom not like you? She is your mother. She has been very busy recently, so she doesn't have time to play with you. You can't blame her. You are her daughter, so you should learn to understand her and support her, understand?" Freya nodded, but she still couldn't help but complain, "But they all say that you are the busiest, Dad. Why do you have time to play with me, but Mom doesn't?" Sue-e laughed and pointed at Akali and the others who were busy. "That's because Dad has a lot of powerful subordinates. They can help Dad finish his work, so Dad can be lazy and play with you." "Oh, I see. Then why doesn't Mom find some powerful subordinates to help her with her work?" Freya asked again. "There's no other way. That's because there aren't many people in the world who can do what Mom is doing. She can't find so many people to help her like Dad." "Wah! So Mom is that powerful? She can do things that not many people in the world can do?" Freya exclaimed. Sue-e couldn't help laughing as he softly tapped Freya's nose. "Could it be that you think Mom isn't powerful? Let me tell you, Mom is much more powerful than Dad. Haven't you noticed that Dad is always listening to Mom at home?" Poochie. Hearing Sue-e's words, Akali and the others who were eavesdropping on them couldn't help laughing. "Hey Freya, is what Sir Chairman said true?" Akali asked Freya with a smile. "He always listens to your mom at home?" Freya tilted her little head and thought for a while with a serious look on her face before forcefully nodding. It's true. Dad always agrees with whatever Mom says and has never opposed it." "Ha ha!" The group of people instantly broke out in laughter. Akali was laughing so hard that she couldn't even stand straight. Sue-e didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at Freya. He was afraid that after today, the rumor that New Flyer's chairman is a henpecked husband would spread to everyone's ears. Freya was confused as she looked at the people around her who were rocking back and forth with laughter before asking Sui, "Dad, did I say something wrong? Why is she laughing so hard?" Sui helplessly pinched her smiling face as he softly sighed and said, "No, you're not wrong. I'm the one who listens to Mom at home." After saying this, he put down Freya again and said to her, "All right, you go play with Aunt Linda first. I'll discuss some work with Aunt Akali and I'll bring you to the tower to play after I'm done." "All right," Freya replied in a crisp voice as she skipped over to Linda's side. Sui turned to look at Akali, who was still smiling, and asked with a stern face, "How's the maintenance of the signal tower? Are there any problems?" The more stern Sui's face was, the more Akali wanted to laugh. After looking at him for a while, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. Seeing that Akali's laughter was getting louder and louder, Sui helplessly shook his head and said, "All right, stop laughing. You and Steel are old friends. It's not like you don't know how Steel and I get along. What's so funny?" After a while, Akali slowly straightened her body and stopped laughing. But when she looked at Sui again, there were many complicated emotions hidden in her eyes. "Mr. Chairman, you should know that I've always envied Steel." Sui slightly turned his head to avoid Akali's burning gaze. He coughed and said, "Tell me about the maintenance." Akali let out a sigh and then took a deep breath. Her face once again had a bright smile as she replied in a very straightforward tone, "Mr. Chairman, regarding the maintenance, it's generally good, but there are some small problems. For example, the signal tower will be affected differently in different terrains. Take Tower Number 3 for example. According to the survey, there are large amounts of magic crystals hidden underneath, so it will affect the magic waves to a certain extent." Sui patiently listened to Akali's report, and from time to time, he would give some suggestions that he had thought of. Actually, although the magic machine industry was brought up by him, after so many years of development, there were many problems in the field that even he didn't understand very well. For example, Akali's research on magic resonance technology was mainly focused on. At most, he could provide some suggestions on magic arrays, but he didn't do much research on the specific construction and various in-depth theoretical knowledge. Compared to when the new flyer was first established, where he had to lead almost all the research, the current him was more of a leader participating in the research, setting the general direction for the research instead of investing in the research himself. Currently, other than having more theoretical knowledge than many people in the field of magic machines, he wasn't that much better than many researchers in the Chamber of Commerce in other fields related to magic machines. But this happened to be the situation that Sui was most happy to see. The entire magic machine industry was a very large and profound system. Of course, it was impossible for him to truly lead the development of this industry by himself. Now, more and more people could grasp more and more in-depth knowledge of magic machines. This was something that he had always hoped for, and also the inevitable result of the normal development of this industry. The only thing that Sui wasn't too satisfied with was that apart from the new flyer, the other chambers of commerce were still far from investing enough in this area. Only a small number of magic machine chambers of commerce had some special technology, while most of them were purely relying on the technology that they obtained from the new flyer to make money. Back to the signal towers. According to Sui's plan, the installation of these signal towers was obviously to allow the magical waves to be transmitted to any part of the continent, just like the radio signals on Earth. Other functions aside, at the very least, the functions of the magic communicator would be close to that of mobile phones on Earth. Moreover, the Magic Research Institute had made a new breakthrough in the research and development of the magic communicator. By fine-tuning the magic array in the magic communicator, they could adjust the frequency of the mana waves released by the magic communicator, thereby allowing them to connect with different magic communicators. This was already close to the principle of mobile phones on Earth. As long as they continued researching this, Sui felt that it was very possible for them to have the same functions as mobile phones on Earth. Moreover, compared to the radio signal towers on Earth, the magic signal towers were countless times stronger. The magic signal towers sent out magical waves, and they could use these magical waves to affect other related magic arrays in the range. So in theory, as long as it was in the range of the magic signal towers, any magic array could be affected by the magic signal towers. The magic arrays that weren't connected to the magic signal towers could be ignored, but if the magic array had been specially set beforehand, the magical waves released by the magic signal towers could be used to control the magic array. To give a simple example, if there was a Xinfei brand magic air conditioner in this range that had been set beforehand, in theory, they could use a corresponding magic array control panel to send out magical wave. Then, through the magic signal towers, they would be able to control the magic air conditioner. If it was even more exaggerated, as long as this research was deep enough, they could even control all the magic machines in the range of the magic signal towers. This was the real magic network that Sui had always dreamed of. Chapter 767. Suyi's ideals were very rich, but reality was a stark contrast to him. As for the magic signal towers, according to the plan, the first step was to set them up on Suyi's territory. It was a kind of promotion while also using Suyi's territory as an experimental base, making it convenient to test and further research. When this step reached a certain level, the next step was to spread the magic signal towers across the entire Principality of Constantine, bringing the entire duchy into the magic network that Sui had thought of. However, they didn't meet any obstacles in the first step, but they met a very large obstacle in the second step. New Flyer first negotiated with another lord of the Principality of Constantine who was close to Suyi's territory. They planned on setting up magic signal towers on his territory, expanding the magic network that New Flyer had built. But when they discussed this with the Lord, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's idea had been rejected by the Lord. This made Sui very surprised. Because this Lord's territory was very close to New Flyer, he already had a deep relationship with New Flyer and had obtained large benefits from this cooperation. Before this, he didn't have any objections to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's requests and would definitely comply. But in this negotiation, he showed a very strong attitude and didn't leave any room for discussion. He said that no matter what, he wouldn't agree to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce building a magic signal tower on his territory. His strong reaction made the people of the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce feel very strange. Sui even personally went to see this lord and explained to him the use of the magic signal towers and how the magic network would greatly increase the standard of living of the people, but he still didn't make him change his mind at all. In the end, because of his strange persistence, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had no choice but to give up on his territory as their first expansion target. They turned to another noble lord that shared a border with Suyi's territory. However, the other lord had the same determined attitude as the previous lord, saying that he wouldn't agree to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce building a magic signal tower on his territory no matter what. If it was just one lord showing this kind of attitude, it could be considered personal considerations. But now that there were two lords showing this kind of strange attitude, it couldn't help but attract Suyi's attention. When he had his subordinate contact the other lord and received a gentle but firm rejection, Sui finally understood that the problem he was facing wasn't a simple case. Facts proved Suyi's guess. After that, Akali's research team worked with the New Flyer's public relations staff to contact several spirit race nobles in the Principality of Constantine, but they all rejected them without a single exception. This strange situation, naturally everyone who knew about this felt it was strange. Why would these lords in the Principality of Constantine risk offending the New Flyer to strongly reject this idea that wouldn't hurt them at all, rather it would greatly improve the lives of the people in their territory? Su-yi was very curious about this, but the reasons these lords gave for rejecting him were all strange. He could tell with a single glance that it was just an excuse, but there wasn't a single truth. The matter of setting up the magic signal towers was to be set up in the private territories of the nobles, so if they wanted to set it up properly, they had to obtain the cooperation of the nobles. Now that they were all showing signs of not cooperating at all, Su-yi couldn't do anything for now. But compared to the strange rejection of building a magic signal tower, Su-yi cared more about the real reason behind these lords' rejection. Thinking of the proposal he made to the Congress before, requesting a new piece of territory, but being rejected by half of the Congress, Su-yi suddenly found that he, or the new flyer, didn't have as much influence in the Principality of Constantine as he thought before. As for his control over the Principality of Constantine, it was clearly shown through these two matters. It was that he didn't have much control at all. This made Su-yi feel a bit disappointed. He thought that with the appearance of the new flyer, it would greatly improve the lives of all the citizens in the Principality of Constantine, allowing everyone to benefit. Then everyone in the Principality of Constantine would approve of the new flyer and would support all the actions of the new flyer. But the heartless facts told him that he had thought too much. "Kid, aren't you 35 years old this year? How can you still be as naive as a child?" Mentor Carmilla knit her brows as she looked at Su-yi, shaking her head. "You can make others feel grateful just based on your kindness, but you have to understand something. Gratitude is gratitude, obedience is obedience, these are two different things. Perhaps others will agree to some things you do out of gratitude, but when it comes to their personal benefits, they will choose to protect their personal benefits first. How could they blindly obey you? But my request for more territory will affect the personal benefits of others, so it's fine if they object. But what does it matter if I help them build a magic signal tower? Why are they so resolutely against it?" Su-yi said in a confused voice. "Kid, you're not willing to study magic when you have nothing to do, but now you know that there's a problem?" Mentor Carmilla gave a soft snort. Su-yi scratched his head in a confused manner. "How is this related to me studying magic? Could it be that, if I study magic more, they'll agree to me building magic signal towers for them?" "No, they won't." Mentor Carmilla shook her head. "But if you study magic more, you'll know an illusion in the circle of magicians, and you won't find it strange that they're against building magic signal towers." Su-yi was surprised. "What illusion?" "We'll have to talk about 2,000 years ago." Mentor Carmilla cleared her throat and said in a slow voice, "Around 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, the humans had just taken control of the continent from the elves. Because the humans mainly relied on the magic, they learned from the elves to defeat the elves. So not only were there many magicians, they were also very strong. At that time, the most powerful mages were the unrelenting leaders of the human race. In order to inform themselves, these powerful mages would set up magic towers within the area under their control." Through Mentor Carmilla's explanation, Su-yi finally understood. As it turned out, more than 2,000 years ago, those powerful mages could easily control all the humans within the range of the magic tower's influence through the powerful magical waves emitted by the magic tower. Even the other races were not spared. Because these magicians weren't kind people, the human society of that time was completely controlled by these powerful magicians using their magic towers, becoming their private property. Their lives weren't much better than when the elves ruled the continent, it was even worse. Although with the development of human society, this model of powerful magicians ruling human society was broken, turning into the current human kingdoms, the shadow of the magic towers had always been left in people's memories. Now that New Flyer wanted to build a magic signal tower, although it was completely different from a magic tower in terms of function, because of the shadow left behind, it wasn't strange for everyone to reject it. Su-yi could understand the scruples of the other lords, but he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Is there a mistake?" A magic signal tower is completely different from a magic tower, alright? Aren't they being too cautious? In a situation where there is a possibility of threatening their rule, any caution is justified. Mentor Carmilla softly said a famous quote from the signs. Sui helplessly shook his head. Then what do we do? Could it be that I have to force those lords to build a magic signal tower? If I really do this, I might as well send out the company's guards to exterminate them. This is also a good method. Mentor Carmilla gave a shrug before looking at the surprised Sui and giving a certain nod. Don't doubt it, I'm serious. Sui slightly knit his brows. Grandfather, are you encouraging me? No, I'm seriously advising you. Mentor Carmilla said in a deep voice. I've wanted to discuss this with you for a long time. I agree with your idea of using magic machines to improve the lives of normal people, but I've always felt that there was a problem with your method. What problem? Sui asked back in a confused voice. You're too indecisive. You clearly have the ability to control the Stantine Duchy in your hands, but you insist on creating this mess of a parliament management system. I'm not saying that this method isn't good, but haven't you noticed that this method has caused many problems for your ideas and methods in the Principality of Constantine? Sui was silent for a bit before giving a slight nod. I've noticed. But this is also my attempt. I don't want to, and I'm not suited to be a king. No, I'm not letting you be a king, you're not suited for this. I just want to remind you, Sui, the responsibility you have right now is much more important than you think. You have to change this way of thinking and become a bit tougher. Indecisiveness and procrastination will only make many things more difficult, and even make you further and further away from your ideals. At this point, Mentor Carmilla patted Sui's shoulder with a solemn expression. Sui, I agree with your ideals, and I hope you can truly realize them. But for this, you have to understand this reason. Sui was silent. He lowered his head slightly and looked at the ground, not saying anything for a long time. Mentor Carmilla didn't urge him, but just looked at him quietly. After a while, Sui took a deep breath. When he raised his head again, the half-dead confusion and doubt in his eyes were gone, replaced by determination and brightness. Yes, grandfather, I understand. I know what I should do. Mentor Carmilla smiled and nodded. He understood Sui, and thought that Sui was the smartest person he had ever met in his life. Since he could understand and make up his mind, then there were many things that he didn't need to say anymore. Alright, Sui, no matter what you decide to do, remember, I, Mentor Carmilla, will do my best to help you. Thank you. Chapter 768. At the beginning of June, the newspapers of the Principality of Constantine, the Lampari Kingdom, the Kingdom of Ruhr, and all the surrounding countries suddenly started to publicize the new flyer on a large scale. These reports were not only about the various magic machines produced by Xinfei's Union, but also about Xinfei's merchants themselves. There were all kinds of reports. Some were news, some were introductions about the new flyer, and some were simply anecdotes related to the new flyer. Most ordinary people only knew about these things, but very few people knew about them in detail. For example, some things that happened when the new flyer was first established, such as how Vice President Hines and Sui met, and how they decided to establish the new flyer. Apart from the people involved, almost no one knew about these details. But this time, there were many reports about these details in many newspapers. Ordinary people always welcomed these kinds of reports that were similar to gossip. Moreover, these reports were related to the new flyer, the most eye-catching chamber of commerce in the surrounding countries. So in the newspapers of the various countries, as long as they reported on the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, their sales would soar. There were even many newspapers that didn't care about the facts and began fabricating some so-called details, adding oil and vinegar to their reports. But no matter what the content was, in general, no newspaper reported negatively about the new flyer. Of course, from the establishment of the new flyer to its development until now, the things that it had done in the past 7 years were obvious to all. There wasn't much negative news about it at all. On the contrary, because of the appearance of the new flyer, countless people's lives greatly improved. They went from not having enough to eat to not having to worry about food and clothing, and at the same time, they could enjoy the convenience of life brought by countless magic machines. With these facts as the basis, these positive reports naturally became easier to accept. Therefore, after seeing these reports, no matter how much they knew about the new flyer, or even if they didn't know anything about the new flyer, they would more or less have a sense of identity with the new flyer in their hearts. Apart from these gossip-like reports, there were also some reports that focused on the technical aspect. In these reports that involved technical aspects, the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce and the magic machine industry that had developed and expanded were examined from all aspects. In these reports, the magic machine industry was officially a fixed term, and the various types of magic machines were classified in detail. These classifications were even more detailed than the 5 categories in the new flyer. For example, the household magic machines were classified as kitchen magic machines, bathroom magic machines, and so on. While these magic machines were classified, these newspapers also published some technical information. They used all kinds of precise data and some basic magic machine theory to analyze these magic machines. If all the technical articles in these newspapers were counted, one could even find that while they determined that the magic machine industry was a complete system, they also determined the most basic and simple magic machine industry theory system. Just as some people were thirsting for these technical articles, and some people who weren't interested were appreciating them with interest, the new flyer suddenly announced in a special press conference that the new flyer would be investing in a newspaper and magazine. The main business would be to publish technical publications on magic machines. These technical publications initially included a Xinfei Magic Machine Industry Weekly and a Magic Machine Industry Theoretical Monthly. The Xinfei Magic Machine Industry Weekly was a weekly newspaper. According to the plan, it would publish some reports about what happened in the magic machine industry. Not only would it involve the new flyer, but it would also involve any other reports related to the magic machine industry. As for the Magic Machine Industry Theoretical Monthly, it was a monthly magazine that mainly published professional magic machine industry knowledge. According to the news announced by the new flyer at the press conference, the articles published in the Magic Machine Industry Theoretical Monthly would mainly be written by the researchers of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce and the Magic Machine Development Center. At the same time, they welcomed anyone who had some understanding of the magic machine industry to submit articles. The new flyer was planning to turn this Magic Machine Industry Theoretical Monthly into the most professional magic machine industry theory journal. Not only would it introduce some magic machine industry theory, it would also popularize the magic machine industry theory system. When this news was announced at the press conference, it immediately created a large stir. If what the new flyer said was true, it meant that the Magic Machine Industry Theoretical Monthly would be very important to the other magic machine companies, as well as the most important magic machine theory knowledge. For most of the other magic machine companies, they only bought some magic machine technology from the new flyer and then followed the new flyer's technology to produce the magic machines. In reality, they were very weak in terms of technology. This was the most important reason why it was hard for them to catch up to the new flyer. Now that the new flyer was willing to publish their magic machine theory knowledge, they could use this knowledge to improve their technology. In the future, they really could catch up to the new flyer. While they were happy, everyone was also confused by the actions of the new flyer. If it was said that the new flyer easily gave away their unique technology before, making everyone think that Su-Yi was a prodigal, Now that he had created the Magic Machine Industry Theoretical Monthly and casually gave away the most important magic machine theory knowledge, he couldn't be described as a prodigal. To many people, the new flyer doing this was Sue-E being a fool. But to Maffa Count of the Principality of Constantine, perhaps Sue-E was a fool. But no matter how foolish Sue-E was, he could only feel a chill in his heart. As the lord of the territory closest to Sue-E's territory, when the new flyer wanted to promote the magic signal towers, the first person they looked for was Maffa Count. At that time, Count Marfa had resolutely rejected him. The main reason why he refused was because he had been reminded by someone ahead of time to pay attention to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's magic signal towers. It was just like the magic towers those powerful magicians had built 2,000 years ago. If he agreed to the new flyer's proposal, his territory would fall under the new flyer's control, and even he as the lord would have to obey the new flyer. Thinking of this terrifying consequence, even if Maffa Count knew that he would offend the new flyer, he still firmly rejected them. At first he was worried that the new flyer would make a move against him because of this matter, but then he heard that the new flyer went to other lords and was rejected one by one. This made him feel assured. The new flyer had been in the Principality of Constantine for 5 years, and as one of Sue-E's neighbors, he understood Sue-E and the new flyer very well. Sue-E was good in his eyes. The only thing that he didn't know if it was a weakness or a strength was that he was the chairman of a large company and also a noble. He was just too kind and benevolent. He seemed to be like a saint in the legends. No matter how others treated him, he would always contribute a lot of things to others that were beneficial to them. This made it so that he rarely attacked others. Even Wine Count from before, if it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to attack the new flyer several times, Sue-E wouldn't have killed him. So Maffa Count and the other lords of the Principality of Constantine always felt that Sue-E was easy to deal with. It could even be said that he was easy to bully. Anyway, this fellow wouldn't really do anything to them, so what were they afraid of? Then again, if the new flyer really caused trouble for them because of this matter, they could just tell them about the magic tower. They believed that with Sue-E's personality, he wouldn't force them and would only choose to give up. Yes, Sue-E was a soft egg in the eyes of many lords. But this time, Maffa Count found that he was completely wrong. The new flyer had discussed the matter of the magic signal tower with several dozen lords, but after being rejected, it was like this matter hadn't happened at all. Including Maffa Count, all the lords thought that the new flyer would be the same as before. They would forget about this matter, and everyone would be calm and peaceful. But after being silent for half a month, the new flyer suddenly asked Maffa Count to cooperate with the new flyer to build a magic signal tower in his territory. Maffa Count naturally rejected them without any hesitation. In the end, 3 days after he rejected them, the new flyer suddenly cut off all cooperation with Maffa Count. Before this, the new flyer and Maffa Count had worked together to build 2 rubber processing factories, a canned fruit factory, and 2 small magic machine component factories. This was the 3rd year of cooperation, and Maffa Count earned over 200,000 gold coins from these factories each year. But now that the new flyer had suddenly cut off all cooperation, it caused these factories to be unable to operate smoothly. The rubber products and canned fruit that had already been produced relied on the new flyer's transport network to be sold in other countries, but now that the new flyer had cut off all cooperation, these products were all squeezed in the factories. It was fine for the rubber products, but the canned fruit didn't have a long shelf life. If they were kept for a while, their quality would drop and it would be harder to sell them. As for the 2 small production magic machine parts factories, their main customers were the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's production magic machine workshop. Now that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had given up on ordering them, there was a backlog of parts produced. After the new flyer had cut off all cooperation for a week, Maffa Count found that his territory had fallen into chaos. The stoppage of several factories meant that the workers had no work to do, so their wages were much lower. This directly affected their lives. They could endure it in the beginning, but after a few days, these lowly people in Maffa Count's eyes actually dared to cause trouble. Although Maffa Count immediately sent out his personal guards to suppress the trouble, this created even more serious resistance. In just a single week, all the factories under Maffa Count's name had stopped working, as well as all the rubber plantations and fruit orchards. According to Maffa Count's rough estimates, in just a single week, he had lost over 10,000 gold coins. Every day this situation continued, his losses would increase by over 1,000 gold coins. Even if he had earned quite a bit from cooperating with the new flyer in the past 3 years, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long if this continued. What made him feel even more despair was that he couldn't find a solution at all. Only at this time did Maffa Count realize that his dependence on the new flyer had reached such a deep level. If he wanted to solve his current predicament, he could only ask the new flyer for help. After understanding this, Maffa Count finally realized how childish his contempt for Su-Yi was. Su-Yi didn't care about him before because he didn't put him in his eyes at all. But once Su-Yi really wanted to care about him, he couldn't resist at all. Chapter 769. It wasn't just Maffa Count's territory that fell into chaos. There were a total of 13 lords who had rejected the new flyer's proposal to build the magic signal towers and then rejected the new flyer's proposal again. Just like Maffa Count, they were also cut off from cooperation by the new flyer. The impact on them was exactly the same as Count Marth's, just that the degree was different. But whether it was light or heavy, these lords were the same as Maffa Count. They knew in their hearts that they couldn't resist the new flyer at all. There was only one choice left for them, which was to obediently listen to the new flyer. Of course, there were still people who tried their best to salvage this situation. Anklo was one of them who was the most anxious. "Chairman Su, why are you doing this?" Anklo looked at Su-Yi with a serious look, as his eyes filled with reproach and his voice filled with pain. "Do you know that because your new flyer unilaterally abolished the cooperation with the lords led by Maffa Count, their territories have fallen into chaos?" Su-Yi revealed a faint smile and said with a shrug, "Of course I know." "You know. Then why did you do it?" Anklo's tone was heavy. Anklo's voice became even more serious. "The countless citizens in their territories had obtained a new life because of your cooperation with the new flyer, but now it has been destroyed because of you. You. Can you really bear to do this? If you're asking me if I can bear it, why don't you ask those lords if they can bear it? They clearly agreed to cooperate with our company, and they could have maintained their status quo, allowing their citizens to benefit even more. But now because of their selfishness, everything has been destroyed. I feel that before you question me, you should question them first," Su-Yi said. "Selfish?" Anklo furrowed his brows. Anklo knit his brows. "Chairman Su, I'm very clear on their concerns and I don't think they are selfish. You and your new flyer are the ones who are truly selfish this time. You're promoting the magic signal towers like this. Isn't it because you want to control the Principality of Constantine? First of all, I have to explain something to you. Whether you believe it or not, this magic signal tower is not the same as the magic towers that you and the lords were worried about from the ancient times. Secondly, I have to point out a fact to you. Anklo, do you really think that the Principality of Constantine can break away from the influence of the new flyer?" Anklo fell silent. After staring at Su-Yi for a while, Anklo slowly shook his head. "No, I know very well that new flyer is very important to the Principality of Constantine. It is because of your new flyer that the citizens of the duchy can live better lives than ever and the duchy is much stronger than before. I have to admit, in the years since your Frestec Chamber of Commerce came to the duchy, the entire duchy has been filled with a positive spirit. I've never seen the citizens of the duchy filled with hope for life like this before. After saying this, Anclo paused before changing the topic. But, Chairman Su, the duchy is our Stantine duchy after all. If you want to control the duchy in your hands, even if the duchy suffers losses, I will fight to the end. Su-yi looked at the impassioned Anclo and gave a cold laugh. Fight to the end? Anclo, I always thought that you were an ambitious person who was willing to consider the Principality of Constantine, but now that I've heard you say this, I've finally found that you have been corrupted by the power in your hands. You are no longer the Anclo who is willing to fight for a better life for the citizens of the Principality of Constantine. Anclo's expression changed. What do you mean by this? You're saying that you will fight to the end even if the duchy suffers losses? I'm very curious, what are you fighting for? I've already said it, the magic signal towers won't have the terrifying effect of controlling people's hearts that you're worried about, but those lords have strong reactions and your reaction is even stronger than theirs. Why is that? You're worried that the Principality of Constantine will be controlled by me and you'll lose your power, right? You're saying that you'll fight to the end even if the duchy suffers losses, based on what? The citizens of the Principality of Constantine can live good lives because of our new flyer, but because you're afraid of losing the power in your hands, you'd rather heavily affect the lives of your citizens and oppose me this strongly. Anclo, you've disappointed me too much. I haven't. Faced with Su-yi's reprimand, Anclo's expression became incomparably agitated. He forcefully waved his arms and loudly refuted. I indeed don't want the duchy to fall into your new flyers or your control, but this isn't related to my personal power. I just want the duchy to remain our Stantine's country and not fall into the hands of an outsider like you. Su-yi looked at Anclo with knitted brows for a while, as his expression became a bit strange. Anclo, I remember that you weren't this stupid before. You can just think this in your heart, but now you're really saying it in front of me. Just what are you thinking? Could it be that after being the chairman of the parliament for a few years, you've been completely corrupted by power to the point that even your brain has been hollowed out? I'm just speaking from the bottom of my heart. Anclo panted heavily and angrily said, the reason why I reached an agreement with you in private to help your new flyer gain a foothold in the Principality of Constantine was because I felt that your new flyer could make the duchy better. But now I'm very regretful. My actions back then were akin to inviting a wolf into the house. Su-yi shook his head. I don't think our new flyer has done anything like a wolf. Isn't it the reason you're forcing these nobles this time? Anclo loudly retorted. Su-yi let out an ear-piercing cold laugh. These nobles aren't ordinary citizens of the Principality of Constantine. What do their thoughts have to do with me? Anclo, if you say something like this, it means that you've completely changed. You used to care about the lives of the citizens of the Principality of Constantine, but now you're speaking for these nobles. Your butt is quite crooked right now. Anclo's expression froze before he refuted. These nobles represent the citizens of the duchy. You're forcing them and making their territory fall into chaos, which is harming the citizens. Is that so? Su-yi revealed a faint smile. He took a document from the table to the side and looked it over before throwing it to Anclo. The reason for this matter this time is because of the nobles' deep misunderstanding of the magic signal towers. But where did these misunderstandings come from? Anclo, aren't you curious? Anclo took the document in surprise, and when he opened it, his expression instantly changed. Su-yi looked at him and kept giving a cold laugh. Anclo, in order to maintain your control over the duchy, you really are scheming. You actually began secretly contacting these nobles a year ago, guaranteeing that they would secretly obey our new flyer. Isn't it all because you want to control our new flyer one day? It's a pity that you overestimated your abilities. The nobles of the duchy have obtained large benefits from cooperating with our company, but you can't give them the same thing, so how could they be on the same side as you? You have to know, I didn't deliberately collect this information. Anklo looked at the document in his hand and countless drops of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. The information on this document was all about the secret contact he had with the nobles of the duchy over the past year. It recorded how he had contacted these nobles in secret, trying to unite these nobles against the new flyer. It even recorded which nobles he had met on which month and which day, so it could be seen how detailed this information was. Anklo was certain that there were many details that only the parties involved knew, but now that it was clearly recorded in this document, there was only one explanation. It was like what Su-yi had said, this information was provided by the people he had met. Thinking of this, Anklo felt a chill run down his spine. When he first listened to Su-yi's suggestion to establish a parliament to replace the management of the Duke's mansion, Anklo was very happy. He felt that the Principality of Constantine would definitely become stronger under the leadership of the Parliament and the new flyer's investment. In the past few years, the Principality of Constantine had indeed become stronger as he had expected. The lives of the people of the duchy had also become better and better. The entire duchy was filled with a positive atmosphere that he had never imagined before, which made him feel very gratified. But as time passed, Anklo realized that the new flyer's influence on the entire duchy was getting deeper and deeper. It could even be said that every place, person, and matter in the duchy couldn't escape the influence of the new flyer. In comparison, his presence as the Parliament's chairman was getting weaker and weaker. Most of the time, he was just a puppet dealing with unimportant government affairs. Anklo was an ambitious person and naturally, he wasn't willing to let things continue like this. Therefore, he secretly contacted the other nobles who were also ambitious and apprehensive of the new flyer's influence in an attempt to get out of the current situation. However, he didn't expect that the nobles in the duchy weren't completely on his side. They even told Su-yi about his secret. But on second thought, it made sense. Cooperating with the new flyer would bring huge benefits to the nobles and make their lives much better than before. But what could they gain by cooperating with Anklo? Anklo's heart sank as soon as he figured it out. He looked at Su-yi with a taunting smile and put down his hands, giving a deep sigh. He knew that from today onwards, the fate of the Principality of Constantine would be rewritten. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.